problems. You got a good run through there. The N2 going north is a breakdown just after the ram from Isipingo. So coming off from Prospect and I'm on some Toti N2 around that M4 split. That's where the breakdown is. That's likely to be slow. And Cape Town, a crash on the N2 out of town at the R300, actually having a bigger impact to onlookers on the inbound side. Heavy traffic passing Khayelitsha towards the airport runway, and the M7 queuing out of Mitchell's Plain looks like it could be traffic light related again. M7 R300 junction seems to be the problem. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It has gone 7 minutes after 6. Today is Monday, the 23rd of March, 2026. You're listening to SAFM 104 to 107. And we are, as always, coming to you live from Auckland Park in Johannesburg. Welcome to the Monday edition. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. Among some of what we will tell you over the next 3 hours. Just after 7 a.m., we return to a story we started covering late last week, towards the end of last week. A growing controversy in the Eastern Cape that is raising difficult questions about culture, law and sovereignty after the alleged coronation of a self-proclaimed king at a Nigerian community event in Gugompo City, formerly known as East London. Traditional leaders say the move is unlawful and undermines constitutionally recognized structures, particularly within the Amakhachabe kingdom, while government also warns that it could set a dangerous precedent if left unchecked. But beneath the legal arguments lies a more delicate tension: how to balance cultural identity and expression within the framework of South African law without fueling xenophobia. We'll speak to Inkosi Mpumalanga Gwadiso, the chairperson of the Eastern Cape Provincial House of Traditional Leaders, and that conversation is coming up at about 7:10 about why this incident has struck such a nerve within traditional leadership circles. And then immediately after that, we'll speak to the Eastern Cape Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs MEC, Zolile Williams, who will unpack government's response, including concerns about sovereignty and calls for national intervention following the alleged installation of Chief Solomon Ogbonna Eziko as Igwe Ndigbo na East London. So those two conversations just further takes on a story that we started covering late last week, and we'll pick up on that theme just after 7. And then at 7:20, as the country grapples with more than 26,000 murders in a year, at least one lawmaker, Dakota Lekhwete, and who is leading a key portfolio committee in the security cluster, is now openly comparing the country's crime levels, particularly murders, to those seen in conflict zones. The deployment of the South African National Defence Force to support police marks a significant escalation, we're told, of the fight against crime, but also raises uncomfortable questions about whether the state is actually losing its grip on public safety. While some argue the military is needed to stabilize communities facing organized and heavily armed criminal networks, others warn it risks becoming a short-term fix to avoid deeper systemic reform. So we'll speak to Dakota Lekhwete, who is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans, about why Parliament believes this step is necessary, but also explore the bigger question: whether the country is confronting the root causes of crime or simply managing its consequences and keeping it contained, as it were, through the deployment of the SANDF. And that conversation with Dakota Lekhwete at about 7:20 this morning. And then lastly, let me lift and highlight this story. At about 8:45, we'll tell you about cautious optimism on the country's roads, with early data for 2026 showing a notable drop in crashes and fatalities, the lowest levels in 6 years. What am I talking about? The Transport Minister, Barbara Creecy, reports that an 11% reduction in crashes, reports an 11% reduction in crashes, and a 10% drop in fatalities so far this year, the lowest figures in 6 years, suggesting that perhaps law enforcement and behavioral interventions may be gaining a bit of traction. But she's also warning that progress remains fragile. We are far from being out of the woods as far as these high levels of fatalities on our roads are concerned, especially ahead of the busy Easter travel period when risks traditionally spike. Beneath the improvements are persistent challenges from unroadworthy vehicles and expired driving permits to the ongoing crisis of pedestrian fatalities, because really that really is part of the heart of the problem, the number of people who are pedestrians who are killed on our roads on a daily basis, on a yearly basis. There's also a policy shift on the horizon, of course, with government pushing forward towards the stricter enforcement and even a possible zero alcohol limit for drivers also being debated and thrown into that mix of the debate. So we'll speak to the Transport Minister, Barbara Creecy, at about 8:45 this morning about what's driving the improvements, nascent as they are, and what still needs urgent attention. That conversation coming up at about 8:45. Your morning brief team, primed and ready, locked and loaded as always. And Musa has your news updates at the top and at the bottom of every hour. Zaikan will recap the weekend's sporting action and fully brief you on all of the off-the-field developments in your favorite sporting codes. Rob Byrne has his eyes trained on the country's highways and byways and will be sure to let you know of any snarl-ups on your route this morning. Melissa Buta will complete the picture with the morning brief in brief, a sampling really of some of the stories worth mentioning but that we may not necessarily be able to give full attention this morning. And Dauleng Lichela will update you on where money is being made and where money is being lost on this Monday morning with her business, economics and market updates across the 3 hours. And of course, as always, Sipho Mantula lifting and highlighting some of the key developments on the rest of the African continent in his Africa update at about 20 to 7 this morning. And that always includes his ever popular historical archive. Your calls, you can put them throughout the 3 hours. We'll make enough time to take your calls and WhatsApp voice notes. Give me a call on 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes and messages, send them to 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107. This is the morning brief. Context, consequence, and conversation starting now.
This February, fall in love with friendships that feel like family. Old bonds, new beginnings, and chapters that remind us why love in all its forms matters. The story comes full circle in The Best Man, the final chapters, where love, loyalty, and life collide one last time. Because some stories stay with you long after the final scene. The Best Man, the final chapters, weeknights 7 p.m. only on S3. Beloved.
Think fast. Fast downloads, fast streaming, fast wins. Because whether you're chasing high scores, chasing deadlines, or chasing the next episode, buffering is not part of the plan. That's why your home needs power of OpenServe fiber. Fast, reliable Wi-Fi that keeps up with your life. Game harder, work smarter, stream without limits. And right now, when you sign up before the end of April, you'll score a free Netflix voucher. So don't wait. Level up your home connection with OpenServe fiber and feel the difference speed makes. Visit openserve.co.za today. T's and C's apply.
Tulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Right, 15 minutes after 6. Let's get it started as we always do with Melissa Puta, who's got the morning brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. Let's talk DA politics and the preparations for that party's elective congress. One candidate will not be standing, and it's someone very prominent, the party's national spokesperson.
Yes, indeed. Good Good morning to Lasizwe. So Karabo Kakao has announced her forced withdrawal from the DA race for deputy chairperson of its federal council. She says her disqualification stems from allegations that she owed party tithes despite having fully paid the outstanding amount. Kakao says she claims that the DA's Free State Provincial Executive Committee refused to issue her a letter of good financial standing, a decision later upheld by the party's federal executive. She argues that this is inconsistent with past cases where other leaders were allowed to run under similar circumstances. Political analysts have warned that the situation could damage the DA's image, raising concerns about fairness and perceptions that internal processes may disadvantage certain candidates. Kakao believes her exclusion is politically motivated, possibly linked to her stance on internal party reforms. The controversy comes ahead of the DA's upcoming federal Congress, and analysts say it could affect voter perception, especially among young black and female voters, a key demographic for the party.
Yeah, I'm just stuck at how they call it tithes, and it's not,
I was stuck for quite a while there.
It's not a levy. Yeah, it's not a party levy, party contribution. No, it's a tithe. Party tithe is what she calls it. This tragic story playing out in Kimberley at Ekapa mine, it is now unfolding in terms of recovery of the bodies.
Yes, so 2 more bodies have been recovered from the Ikapa mine in Kimberley, raising the total number of recovered miners to 3 following a mud rush incident on the 17th of February that trapped 5 workers underground. Ikapa Minerals CEO Jan Hoon confirmed that families have been informed and extended condolences to those affected. He said recovery teams have also made visual contact with a 4th miner, but difficult underground conditions are slowing the recovery efforts. Operations continue cautiously with mine rescue teams working to reach the remaining trapped miners. Water levels are reportedly under control after a brief power disruption, and large volumes of water and debris have been removed as part of ongoing recovery operations. So slowly but surely they are making progress there.
Let's talk about these jaw-dropping revelations that have been coming out of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. We thought Ekurhuleni Metro had rotten elements, but my goodness, Tshwane is putting in a strong showing as far as, rogue elements are concerned.
Yes, indeed. So consequence management has began at the city of Tshwane after the Madlanga Commission exposed alleged tender rigging involving senior officials and politicians. Action SA Councillor Kulufelo Morodi has been placed on special leave, while TMPD Deputy Commissioner Umashi Dlamini has been suspended following testimony by Sergeant Fanny Nkosi. Tshwane CFO Gareth Mnisi is also heavily impacted, with evidence suggesting collusion in awarding tenders, but no action has yet been taken against him. Pressure is mounting for a council meeting to decide on his suspension, as Nkosi's testimony will continue today, and I believe he's going into day 6 or 7 of his testimony. So we will have to wait and see what else comes out of there and what Tshwane does with Mnisi.
Good. He must sit there until we get all the answers, even though, of course, we are not really getting the answers. A lot of the times, the answer is I can't remember. I don't know why I wrote that. Anyway, Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief.
Tulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
On the weather front, there are 2 warnings that have come through from the South African Weather Service and an advisory. So the first one is a yellow level 4 warning, and it is in place over the southeastern parts of Mpumalanga, northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. That yellow level 4 warning is for severe thunderstorms associated with heavy downpours that may result in flooding of susceptible low-lying bridges and roads, as well as damage to infrastructure and settlements due to strong gusty winds. So that's the first one. The second one is a yellow level 2 warning, and it is in place over the southern parts of Gauteng, southern parts and escarpment areas of Mpumalanga, southern parts of KwaZulu-Natal, central and eastern parts of the Northern Cape, the Free State, as well as vast parts of the Northwest, except in the extreme east. That yellow level 2 warning is for severe thunderstorms associated with heavy downpours that may result in localized flooding of susceptible low-lying bridges and roads, as well as damage to infrastructure and settlements due to strong gusty winds, and that is expected, of course, over the areas that I mentioned earlier on. And then there's an advisory. It says very hot and uncomfortable conditions are expected in places over the Namakwa district of the Northern Cape today, persisting into tomorrow, when it will include the West Coast District, the Cape Winelands and Cape Metropole and Overberg local municipalities of the Western Cape. The rest of your weather will be looking like this. Pretoria, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 26. Johannesburg, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 24. Vereeniging, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 26. Mbombela, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 19 to 30. Same conditions in Polokwane, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 17 to 28. Mahikeng, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 22. Vryburg, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 25. Bloemfontein will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 26. Kimberley, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 29. Uppington, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 20 to 34. Cape Town will be fine with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 30. George will be cloudy with morning light rain, 15 to 23. Gqeberha, cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 15 to 24. Gumpo City, cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 18 to 23. Durban will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 23 to 28. Richards Bay will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 22 to 30. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog, otherwise cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 18 to 28.
Top Sport on SAFM.
Max in Pretoria.
Very, very interesting week that we're coming about. First complaint, Mamelodi Sundowns, Bruno, ahead of their Champions game on Friday. Did they write the letter to the PSL to ask for postponement, yes or no? That's the bone of the contention, because they were complaining, foaming, why are we playing on Tuesday, then we're going Monday, then we're going to play again on Friday. So in reality, they need to request SAFA if they've got those situations, because they are representing the country, they are not representing themselves only.
Top Sport on SAFM. If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Tulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So we're just battling a little bit with our guest for the Worldview update. We thought we'd do something rather different, really, really different, that we hoped you would contribute to. And in fact, we still hope you will continue in a fun, I suppose not much fun because, someone has passed on, but I suppose we're celebrating the person's life, right? What am I talking about? Tributes continue to pour in from across Hollywood, the martial arts world, and political circles, and from around the globe, really, pop culture enthusiasts, following the death of Chuck Norris at the age of 86, a figure whose career blurred the lines between real-world discipline and on-screen myth. He was born Carlos Ray Norris And he rose from a 6-time undefeated karate world champion to global fame, first capturing attention in his iconic on-screen clash with Bruce Lee. If you're of a certain age, a lot of these names will resonate, before defining, of course, the moral clarity and stoicism of the 1980s action cinema. For many, his portrayal of principled, unyielding characters, most notably in Walker, Texas Ranger, offered a kind of cultural shorthand for justice in an era of cinematic excess, right? Yet his legacy stretches far beyond film, evolving into internet folklore through, you'll know about it, the Chuck Norris facts. And this is where I hope part of your tributes will go, the direction I hope part of your tributes will go, sharing some of those legendary Chuck Norris facts. In fact, I thought, let me just throw a few into it, right? So to get you started. This is courtesy, of course, of the BBC, where I went and basically, it was easy, really, to just pick up on some of the Chuck Norris facts. Some of the ones they've shared in their tribute to Chuck Norris. 1, Chuck Norris can pass a vision test with his eyes closed. The other one says, when the Hulk gets really angry, he turns into Chuck Norris. Then we have the flu has to get a Chuck Norris shot once a year. And the last one, Chuck Norris doesn't turn on the shower. He stares at it until it starts to cry. So those are some of the tributes that have come through from the BBC, just lifting up a few of the legendary Chuck Norris facts. So I don't know, your own reflections on the life and times of Chuck Norris. When did you first see him, and what resonated with you? What will you always remember? So we thought we would talk to Tinas Ferreira, just from a pop culture iconic person perspective, but we're battling to get a hold of Tinas this morning. So we will take your calls and your WhatsApp voice notes and your own reflections on what made Chuck Norris stand out, right? It was an era of many, many legends, as I've just mentioned. You had your Bruce Lees, you had your Sylvester Stallones, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I suspect that if you are from a certain generation, you didn't know how exactly to pronounce that name, but you knew of the name and all of those names and what they represented in pop culture and how they fit in with our initial and early understandings of the action hero and, issues in the world, and conceptualizing and understanding those. So that's that then. I'm hoping that you will engage in a manner that pays tribute to this legend that has so defined pop culture for so many decades. All right, let me take one of your voice notes that has come through. Someone wants to comment on the installation of this king in the Eastern Cape. If only I could get to it. All right, Mpo, please help me play this for me. All right, that's not responding at all. All right, we'll go to N. Musa in a moment, but still to come on the show a bit later on, we will reflect on that installation of a king, a Nigerian king in Gugompo City. And there's quite a bit of reflection on that, comments that have been coming through. But also within the next 20 or so minutes, we will talk to Julian Zemande, who is the daughter of Nyakane Tsolo, the Pan-Africanist who was part of the people that led the marches on the 21st of March 1960 in Sharpeville. So she's got some reflections about Human Rights Day and how it has evolved and what the meaning of that is. So Julian Zemande will be talking to me at about 10 to 7 this morning. But for now, let's go to N. Musa on standby with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the head of the International Energy Agency says the US and Israeli war with Iran has led to an oil crisis in the Middle East that's worse than the two oil shocks of the 1970s and the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war put together. Gauteng's Organised Crime Unit Detective Sergeant Faninkosi is expected to conclude his testimony before the Madlanga Commission this morning. Last week, Nkosi testified about his links with members of the alleged criminal cartel, taxi tycoons and relations with some top officials in the city of Tshwane. And authorities say the beach cleanup operations on Robben Island off Cape Town forms part of an ongoing effort to preserve the island as a national heritage site. Over 200 volunteers took part in the cleanup over the weekend. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. So protesting both sides of Gauteng out in Mpumalanga, the R545 just north of the N12. So sort of talking roughly Ogi's area, but on the north side, on the Emelaflani side of it. That 545 is currently blocked off with protest action out that way. Other side of Gauteng, down around Klerksdorp in the northwest, protesting along the N12 and the R30. The Orkney-Klerksdorp route seems to be quite badly affected. It's a taxi driver strike and sort of general protest shutdown. So it is going to be a disruptive morning for the motoring public around Klerksdorp. But if you're waiting for a taxi to come along, your driver's busy burning tyres and blocking roads, so he's not likely to come along. So major disruption expected there. Joburg, the Mike 1 pretty heavily backed for a Monday morning as we get back to work from Ormonde all the way through to Empire Road. N3, the restrictions still in place at Heldenay, so coming out of Germiston, Alberton, on your run through to Galuli's, heavy backlogging going on there. Pretoria, the Molotto Road, very slow this morning as you line up on towards Sefako-Makato, that's southbound, and the N4 Bakwena Highway onto the N1 south after Durham-Port Plaza. The roadwork still causing backlogs there. Just get big volume this time of morning and lane restrictions, and that plus that equals delays. Pietermaritzburg, Durban, Key Ridge, Cliffdale looks all right. No major problems on your N3. And Cape Town, very slow around the Mufuleni side of Khayelitsha. A crash on Muway at the N2 highway bridge earlier this morning. Backlogging traffic on Muway, either from Khayelitsha or from Mfuleni. And behind that congestion, the old 4 road through Mfuleni. Quite heavy backlogs pushing through slowly towards that congested Muway option. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. The stars are not shining bright at all. They are not shining bright because the galaxy has been disturbed quite significantly by a relentless bunch of pirates.
6-0 to us. Yeah, I think the Galaxy is still checking that scoreboard this morning. And Pirates making sure everyone woke up knowing exactly who's on top. And that's where they are. Top of the Betway Premiership is Orlando Pirates thrashing TX Galaxy 6-0 at Mbombela Stadium. Lelebohile Mofokeng starred with a hat-trick, while Tsepang Moremi, Khamogelo Sebelebele and an own goal completed the rout. Galaxy were reduced to 10 men early on, and then they suffered this heaviest defeat ever, extending their winless run.
Zai, before you move on, that own goal was weird. What a weird own goal. What was happening? What was that?
What was that, Galaxy?
Jeez.
I have no idea, Tulas. You know what? I think they're also still trying to fix what really happened from that match. And I don't know what it feels like to score an own goal, but I'm sure Galaxy is not feeling great. So, yeah, it was also Golden Arrows. They are back in the top 8 after a late winner from Sabelo Sitole, and they secured a 1-0 victory over Sekukuna United. Sekukuna is struggling. They're continuing with their struggles now. They're winless in 5 matches. Let's go to this big one, the FIFA World Cup 2026, running from the 11th of June to the 19th of July, live on SABC3, SABC Plus, and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport, your home of the World Cup. International soccer, Manchester City are Carabao Cup champions after a 2-0 win over Arsenal at Wembley. Nico O'Reilly scoring twice in 4 second-half minutes to seal the title and hand Pep Guardiola a record 5th League Cup triumph. Nottingham Forest deepened Tottenham's woes with a 3-0 win in London. Spurs are now winless in 13 league matches. With relegation fears growing, Aston Villa boosted their Champions League hopes with a 2-0 win over West Ham. They are now 5 points clear inside the top four. Cycling, and Tadej Pogacar's Milan-San Remo victory has him chasing history with a shot at becoming the first rider to win all 5 cycling monuments in a single season. Only the Paris-Roubaix stands in his way. Tennis, Taylor Fritz is into the 4th round of the Miami Open after a straight sets win over Riley Opelka. He now faces Yuri Lehechka for a place in the quarterfinals. And finally, golf. Bryson DeChambeau claimed back-to-back Live Golf titles after a dramatic playoff win over John Rahm at Steyn City in Johannesburg. The American birdied the 18th to seal victory and was visibly emotional after the win. That's your sport. We'll be swinging back at the top of the hour. For the morning brief, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling for the first update of the morning as well as the first one for the whole week. Ndauling, good morning. Let's start with precious metals. What's happening there? You're telling us that a third straight week of decline.
Yeah, it's not looking good to us, with gold in particular, that's often viewed as a safe haven during crisis, struggling to hold that status amid the US-Iran war. Now, gold posted its third weekly loss, dropping close to 10% on Friday, trading below $5,000. Now, this is the steepest decline since 2011. The sell-off spilling over to other precious metals like silver, which also declined for a third consecutive week. The sell-off coincides with rising oil prices, suggesting investors are retreating from precious metals despite heightened geopolitical risk. Now, the dollar, the US dollar that is, has become the safe haven of choice. Analysts say the volatility reflects momentum trades unwinding after gold and silver's record rallies. Arthur Parrish of SP Angel noted that retail and hedge funds who chased last year's gains are exiting, leaving central bank buying insufficient to sustain prices. Looking at the yellow metal this hour, it's down 4%, trading at $4,700.
I think I'm going to like the IEA. I think I'm going to like these people. These are my kind of people. Tell me about the International Energy Association encouraging remote work. These are good people.
Good people. Now, so they're saying instead of us dealing with the supply issues when it comes to oil, we need to start considering demand issues and try and lower demand for oil, and that could possibly keep prices capped. Now, the International Energy Agency has warned that supply measures alone will not be enough to address what it calls the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market as the US-Iran war escalates. Now, oil prices have surged more than 40% since the conflict began on the 28th of February, largely due to the effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which carries about a fifth of global oil consumption. While countries have begun releasing hundreds of millions of barrels from strategic reserves, the agency says reducing demand could provide faster relief. And so the IEA suggests measures such as working from home, cutting non-essential air travel, carpooling, and shifting to public transport. It notes that road transport alone accounts for around 45% of global oil demand, meaning small behavioral changes could reduce fuel pressure and help shield consumers from rising prices.
All right, let's reflect on the markets in Dowling, starting with how we closed on Friday and the kind of tone that is being set in those markets that have started trading.
Stateside, stocks declined again, capping another week of market turbulence, with the Nasdaq down 2%. Now, this as investors continue to worry about the war in the Gulf and its widespread impact on global oil prices. That also weighing on the JSE, closing in the red in Friday's session, down 0.45%. The rand, in the meantime, taking a big hit back above 17 to the dollar, at 17.12 to the greenback, 22.81 to the pound, and 1977 to the euro. The energy price shocks really wreaking havoc on risk assets and checking in on that oil price, continuing its upward trend, gaining 1.6% to $108 a barrel this hour. Lastly, in Asia, it's a sea of red this morning as investors fled risk assets amid escalating conflict in the Gulf region that has entered its fourth week.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. We'll touch base with you in the second hour of the show, just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And for that, we turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Let's start in the Sahel region, specifically in Niger. Tell me about civil society and what they've had to say about a European Union resolution that demands the release of the country's former president.
Fresh morning, Tulas, and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Tulas, this call by the civil society in Niger, it was what we called a call for mobilization simultaneously in Burkina Faso and Mali, calling for no to European Union resolution, as you have alluded, for the release of Mohamed Bazoum, who was arrested and detained during the coup in 2023. Now, there are reasons this tool are saying that actually the EU is trying by all means, to use the parliament influenced by France to call for the release of Mohamed Bazoum. And they are calling that they are not going to accept that because as a Sahel, they've moved a mile away from France influence, and also they will by all means be against this diplomatic pressure tool that is coming from France using the EU Parliament.
Let me share a story with you quickly, Sipa, about reporting from Niger. I once reported from Niger, and I've got many stories, but I'll tell you two. One, it was one of the first occasions I saw a camel up close, and I won't lie, I was scared of it.
That was in Niamey. You were in Niamey.
So that's one, yes, in Niamey. Then the second one is that they would speak to me in French, right?
Yeah.
And they come up and they and I eventually said, I don't know if this is French, if it makes sense or not. I would say, Mie journaliste, l'Afrique du Sud.
Yeah, but normally, normally when these guys French speaking, you have to look at their face, their facial expressions. For me, when I struggle, I use hands, but I look at their facial expressions. Yes. And my interpreter said to him, I want everywhere.
Le poursuit.
Anyway. La parler français.
So I would just say, Mia, journalist, l'Afrique du Sud. I'm a journalist from South Africa. I hope that's what I was saying. And hopefully they would understand. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Kenya and Uganda taking a major step toward regional integration.
They are calling this railway project the SGR, Standard Gauge Railway, that is to link both Kenya and Uganda. And they say they might connect it to the DRC. This is funded by the Chinese, by the way. The Chinese have extended their fund on what they called 107 kilometers from Kisumu to Malaba section. That's where the Standard Gauge Railway line will assist both Kenya as well as Uganda in terms of trade of goods to the heavy cargo that passes both lines between the Mombasa port to capital city Nairobi, as well as to connect Malaba in Uganda. Like I said, Beijing has extended what they called a credit facility to for Uganda to can complete in their side by end of June next year.
And then tell me about the gang suppression force, UN-backed gang suppression force that's been operating in Haiti. Kenya is stepping back. Chad is stepping up.
That's quite true, Pilas. You remember this multinational force was set up by the UN as early as 2024 after the removal of and the killing of the president in that country, Pilas. But also these gangsters, your barbecue activating the island of Haiti. Now you have Jamaica, Guatemala, and El Salvador as the contributing troops. Now Chad is bringing 800 troops, and Kenya is stepping back. You will remember that the hustler William Ruto was challenged in terms of you are sending Kenyans there, but you still have challenges back home. Now, you know that capacity of the contributing troops to us in that mission is 5,500 police since last year. Now, Kenya is moving back. and now Chad is sending 800 troops to that mission.
All right, let's get to your historical archive. 2 chapters you want to open. The first one is on the 23rd of March, 1932. The second one, 23 March, 2020.
This one, this man, I think we still remember him. He will have been 94 years. He was born in Doornfontein. He was the first black professional footballer to play in Europe. He signed with the English club Coventry in 1955. He was nominated and elected as the one of the best soccer players in the 1950s, in the late 50s. Others, they say you can align him with Pele of Brazil. What we are talking here about, Stephen Madi, Black Meter, Kalamazoo, Mokone. This is the elder Tulas who passed away in 2015. You will recall what happened when he passed away, Tulas. He asked for his ashes to be spread in the venue, and that was spread in the game between South Africa and Nigeria in FNB in 2015 after his passing. A great footballer and a man that we must always remember, Tulas. The government gave him an order of Ikamanga for his contribution. Also today, Tulas, you'll never forget, Tulas, 6 years ago, when we started with COVID-19, the president on this day, the President Matamela Ramaphosa, declared a national state of disaster in terms of Section 27 of the Disaster Management Act of 2002. Tulas, you will recall that by then you had more than 61 confirmed cases in South Africa during that COVID period. It hit us, Tulas, almost 2 years, if you'll recall, 2020, 21, we started to reel the effects of this epidemic that became a pandemic in 2020. And that's this day, Tulas, that led to the president to declare the state of emergency. You will recall those funny names, Tulas: social distancing, mask, sanitizer. You know, for me, I used to be very critical on this concept of social distancing. I say, me and you, Tulas, we use social media. We are socializing as people. So this aspect of social distancing, rather physical distancing, in the Setswana language, they say, "Sutela ko," you know, Tulas, say, "Kopa space," you know, and there will be this brigabova thing. You remember this brigabova thing? Yeah, when you greet, I don't greet with the hand. I use brigabova, but this kind of greetings, I don't subscribe to it, Tulas. Even the mask, I used to be very cautious about how will I breathe, Tulas, if I put a mask. Those were the events, Tulas, that I think our listeners, they will recall. I used to have a COVID-19 helicopter overview. So every Friday I'll be giving updates about the numbers. And the only country that I remember was the last to get COVID was Comoros, Tulas. Yeah. Comoros as an island was the last to be declared, because I was supposed to go there in April, but I could not go because it was being found that it was in the island of Comoros. Asante sana, Tulas, as was leading the True Vision, SAFM, observing the human rights man.
Sipo, thank you for that. That's Sipo Mantula with the Africa Update and, of course, his historical archives. All right, before I go to Rob in traffic, I'm hoping that Rob has got a Chuck Norris joke or something. Those Chuck Norris facts, right? We're paying tribute to Chuck Norris, and I'm seeing some of your messages. For instance, someone here reminds me that as I was counting the other cultural icons that, you know, came up alongside Chuck Norris and became legends, and says, "Good morning, Tulas. You forgot Dolph Lundgren amongst the older action movie stars." You're absolutely spot on. Was he Swedish? Is he Swedish? Dolph Lundgren, I think Swedish. And it was one of those countries where you don't really get major stars coming from there, but made it big alongside the likes of Chuck Norris and others, Sylvester Stallone. So let's hear, what would Chuck Norris himself have to say?
When Chuck Norris does push-ups, he doesn't push himself up, he pushes the earth down. There are no steroids in baseball, only players Chuck Norris has breathed on. That's not fair. I don't know. Believe me, these ought to be screenplay writers here. Rather than being birthed like a normal child, Chuck Norris instead decided to push his way out. Punch his way out. Punch his way out. Chuck Norris once shot down a German fighter plane with his finger by yelling, "Bang." That's true. Oh, man. Chuck Norris doesn't churn butter. He roundhouse kicks the cows, and the butter comes straight out. Get my butter. When Chuck Norris sends in his taxes, he sends blank forms and includes only a picture of himself, crouched and ready to attack. Chuck Norris has never had to pay taxes ever.
Is that true?
That's not true. That is not true. That's a total farce.
I live with Chuck Norris.
In fine print on the last page of the Guinness Book of World Records, it notes that all world records are held by Chuck Norris. And those listed in the book are simply the closest anyone else has ever gotten.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, this is one of my favorites here. When the boogeyman goes to sleep every night, he checks his closet for Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is currently suing NBC, claiming Law and Order are trademark names for his left and right legs. Chuck Norris's tears cure cancer. Too bad he never cries, ever.
Oh, man.
I gotta say my favorite one, though.
Oh, you gotta say your favorite one.
Here's my favorite one.
Yes.
They wanted to put Chuck Norris's face on Mount Rushmore, but the granite wasn't hard enough for his beard.
Yes!
There you have it. So that's Chuck Norris telling Chuck Norris jokes. I'm wondering, what would Chuck Norris do when faced with traffic? Rob, any ideas?
Good morning, Chillers. I'm not sure what he'd do. He probably just wouldn't face it, would he? What would Chuck Norris do in traffic? Good question. Maybe we open that up to the audience this morning. I'm sure they're full of ideas, sitting in traffic wishing.
Traffic diverts from Chuck Norris.
I'm sure the motoring public would know exactly, sitting in traffic this morning, what Chuck Norris would do to help them out. So maybe you can call us and let us know about that one.
Yeah. So how's it looking?
Well, we're focusing this morning down at Klerksdorp and Orkney in the northwest province, with protesting started up around the Klerksdorp area, around the N12, and it's moved pretty rapidly. I guess it's a mobile protest. It's taxi driver based, this protest. So it now seems to be the Orkney area where the major disruption is. So probably just sit tight. If you need a taxi in that area, unlikely to come. Taxi driver busy involved blocking roads. The other side of Gauteng out in Mpumalanga, there's also some protesting just north of the N12, Pola area. The R545 is currently blocked, maybe just full time from going that way as well. Pretoria fairly busy, the mighty Mount Polly Highway at XX, and also the Soutpan Road down through Ondersteport. Very heavy backlogging going on through there. The N3 out of Germiston, heavy all the way to Bedfordview. Obviously, the roadworks around Heldenace interchange are still there and causing some disruption again this morning. Probably a touch heavier than you might be expecting. Durban, the Higginson Highway queuing up coming out of Chatsworth. The Richmond Road queuing up on your way to Pinetown and Westmead from Marion Hill up towards the N3 Highway. It's quite slow on the Richmond Road today. And Cape Town, earlier crash causing backlogs just north of Khayelitsha at the Mfuleni side. It's a collision on Muway at the N2, and behind that it's really badly backed up traffic on Old Four Away. And the M5 looking heavy, going to sit from around about sort of Plumstead this morning right through up into about the N2 highway. There is a crash just north of the N2. That's what's holding up on that M5 north today. Also, just getting this one into Cape Town, the N1, a collision at the R300, pushing a queue back through Brackenfell towards Kryfontein. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore, it's who you are, and you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's rates apply.
Tulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
5 minutes to 7. Credit to the reporting of Independent Online for this story and the powerful write-up that they produced, which inspired the next interview. As South Africa marks Human Rights Day, the memory of Sharpeville is once again brought into sharp focus. But this time, through the deeply personal recollections of a daughter who grew up in the shadow of its history. Julian Zimande reflects on the life of her father, Nyakane Tsolo, a Pan-Africanist Congress activist who helped lead the 1960 anti-pass protest that ended in one of apartheid's most defining and brutal moments. Arrested before police opened fire on unarmed protesters, Tsolo would endure detention, torture, and years in exile, his life tracing the broader arc of sacrifice that defined the liberation struggle. Let's welcome Julian Zimande, the daughter of Nyakane Tsolo, the Pan-Africanist Congress member who also led the Sharpeville marches. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. In relation to these extraordinary events that bent the arc of history as far as the sustainability of apartheid is concerned, and really marked a turning point in the resolve of the South African people to attain their democracy and freedom. Who was Nyakane Tsolo?
Good morning to Lasiso. Good morning to all your listeners. Thank you for having us and our family. We're all listening in. He was a remarkable, lovely dad, extremely brave, had a great sense of humor, but also carried with him a lot of pain. Yeah.
A lot of what happened on 21 March 1960 has been captured in various writings about history, but also a lot of documentaries and the likes. What would your father tell you about those events? Because he had been in the forefront.
Yeah, he said he always used to talk about we are the tools of history. So for him, it was extremely important for us to understand that this was not about being a celebrity. This is not about personally being known, but this was part of a collective struggle, and that we would always be part of that. And he told us also to always love your people. And when you see suffering, oppression, you need to stand up, you need to rise up. And that's how he saw it. But he also knew, he had always a saying that it will not happen in his lifetime. That for him, it was not about just a removal of apartheid laws. For him, it was much deeper. It was an anti-colonialist, anti-imperialist struggle. It was a struggle for the African people for self-determination. And he kind of knew that there were going to be a lot of battles that we'll have to win. So for us as a family, we still feel that the struggle continues.
And what do we know about his political awakening, and particularly his pull towards the Pan-Africanist strand of the liberation movement? What brought that on?
I think he was a call boy together with his father, my grandfather. So he saw the suffering that was happening in the township in Sharpeville on a daily. There was also an incident that occurred, and I think a lot of people in those times will have those stories where young white boys would insult, and they threw bricks or matche at my grandfather, and him experiencing that. And then later in life, he worked for I forget the company in Vereniging. And he realized that because he could read and write, and there was a white co-worker who was illiterate, who couldn't read and write, and he asked my dad to open his salary envelope and a letter that it contained. And my father saw or read there in that letter that the white workers got something called overtime, which the African workers didn't get. And I think that was the point when he realized that, he needed to rise up and stand up, and that what made him political. And then he became known with other PAC comrades in Everton, and they then said, all right, to him and his brother, if they could establish a PAC branch. And that was really the start.
Yeah. Lastly, we've come to commemorate 21 March as Human Rights Day. Just your own reflections on the manner in which we honor the sacrifices of people such as your father, whose life I understand was changed, and your life, all of you, was changed quite significantly following those events. Does it adequately capture, just calling it Human Rights Day, but also our own commitment and walking the talk around human rights? Does it honor the sacrifices?
No, not at all. I mean, the first name change, we could have given another day of the year Human Rights Day. This should have always, and it will always remain for us as a family, as Sharpeville Day, Sharpeville Langa, Sharpeville Massacre Day. No, absolutely not. And I think what somebody said to me, based also on the article, they were not aware that there were a lot of other townships that had marches, similar marches. Of course, you had Orlando West, where Robert Sobukwe and his comrade P.K. Labola and others, they marched at that one. But you have Davidton, you had Everton, was also enormously big. People, ordinary people, decided to march to that police station, to their various police stations, and hand in their pass laws. For me, it is important to understand that ordinary South Africans, even today, have agencies, and that they must be aware of it, that this is not a long walk to freedom by one person or one political party. This is a long walk to freedom for all of us still today, by many.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Julian Zimande, daughter of Nyaka Netsolo, who was a Pan-Africanist Congress member, also part of those that led the marches in Sharpeville on that day. Let's go to Ann Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, IEA chief warns of an oil crisis in the Middle East, and Sergeant Nkosi to conclude his testimony before the Madlanga Commission. Good morning. The head of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, says the US and Israeli war with Iran has led to an oil crisis in the Middle East that's worse than the two oil shocks of the 1970s and the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war put together. The BBC's Suranjana Taware has the details.
He's currently consulting with governments around the globe if it is necessary to release more stocks of oil and that the global economy is facing a major threat today. Given that this is the situation, this is what the world's main energy agency is saying, there are many challenges still ahead. When you talk about unlocking supply, that takes time. It doesn't happen within a day.
Meanwhile, Iran has responded defiantly to a warning by US President Donald Trump to reopen the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours or face a major US assault that could see its power plants destroyed. Tehran says it will fully close the strait if Washington follows through with Trump's threat. The BBC's Simi Jolaoso has the latest.
The Strait of Hormuz has become a central pressure point for President Trump. It's made it difficult for him to end this conflict on his own terms. It's exposed the fractures in the relationships between him and his allies. And it's just a choke point that he can't ignore, because the reality is, with the rising global oil prices, even though he says this is a problem for other nations and they should sort it out, it does affect the US. And that's something clearly he just hasn't been able to ignore.
In other news, Gauteng's Organised Crime Unit Detective Sergeant Nkosi is expected to conclude his testimony before the Madlanga Commission this morning. Last week, Nkosi testified about his links with members of the alleged criminal cartel, taxi tycoons and relations with some top officials in the city of Tshwane. He returns to the stand at 9:30 this morning at the Bridget Mabandla Justice College in Pretoria. Sibahle Mota reports.
Sergeant Nkosi has also testified about his involvement in the murder investigation of hip-hop artist Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tibbs Motswane. Sergeant Nkosi testified to the commission that he was involved with the investigation in the early stages. He told the commission that Motswane was the nephew of taxi tycoon and businessman Mthakathi Mswazi. Mthakathi Mswazi, who was introduced to the commission as a family representative of the late taxi boss Mswazi Msibi, is allegedly linked to members of the criminal underworld.
President Cyril Ramaphosa is today expected to deliver the keynote address at the reburial of mortal remains of 63 Khoi and San people whose remains were unethically removed more than a century ago from Namakwaland in the Northern Cape. The remains were part of museum exhibitions at Glasgow in Scotland and at the Izuko Museum in Cape Town. The reburial will take place at Kinderlee. It was preceded by a night vigil last night. Authorities say the beach cleanup operation on Robben Island off Cape Town forms part of an ongoing effort to preserve the island as a national heritage site. Over 200 volunteers took part in the cleanup over the weekend. The initiative was led by the Western Cape Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports in partnership with organizations including the Robben Island Museum. Organizers say removing waste from the island also helps protect marine life. Provincial Minister Ricardo Mackenzie.
We want to remind the people of our province that it is their right to have access to our beautiful heritage sites and to contribute to the upkeep of these sites. If every person commits to one small act of service, we can make a meaningful impact in preserving the heritage of our province for many years to come.
Recapping the top story, the head of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, says the US and Israeli war with Iran has led to an oil crisis in the Middle East that's worse than the two oil shocks of the 1970s and the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war put together. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
With Outsurance, saving on your car insurance, catching your favorite song on radio just as it starts. 43-year-old Gloria saves an unbelievable 513 Rand on her 2024 Audi Q3. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. Soccer action, Orlando Pirates running riot with a 6-0 win. And we also bring you cricket where both the Proteas captains admit to fielding concerns. We'll find out more at around 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We started Pretoria with quite heavy pressure coming in on the Soutpan Road this morning. If you're leaving Shoshanguve and you're taking the M35 in Onsport, really big backlogs through there. Also, the N1 South through Midrand just starting to fill up between Brockfontein and New Road. No major obstructions on the M1, but it is busy. Back to work Monday. Same with the N3 and N12 out of Germiston and Alberton. Big traffic up through that Heldnace. The inter-JC restrictions are remain in place there. And the N1 from Soweto up to about Gordon Road looking quite slow as well today. Durban, the N2 coming off the south coast, easing at Amanzimtoti, but heavy now from the M7 up in towards the works at Spaghetti Junction. The Komashu Highway and Queen Nandi Drive, both of those options out of Komashu down towards the N2 looking slow, and a problem on the M4 inbound with queuing traffic at Clarewood coming out from Jacobs. That looks very slow. Cape Town crashing on the N1 inbound at the R300. That's heavy now from as far back as Kraaifontein side. And a crash on the M5 north just past the N2 highway, pushing a big queue back into Southfield Parkwood area. If you're on that M5 this morning, it's a heavy one coming up through Rondebosch and in towards that Maitland area. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 7. Welcome to it, the second hour of the morning brief on SAFM 104 to 107. Within this half hour, we'll try and squeeze out as much as possible. So we'll try and run through very quickly now what we will be covering, including this conversation about this cultural and legal fault line that appears to have opened up in the Eastern Cape after the alleged coronation of a king for the Nigerian community in the area of Gugompo City, formerly East London. And that has triggered strong backlash from traditional authorities as well as the Eastern Cape government. So I'll speak to Inkosi Mpumalanga Gwadiso, the chairperson of the Eastern Cape Provincial House of Traditional Leaders. That conversation coming up shortly. And then immediately after that, I'll speak to MEC Zolile Williams, the Eastern Cape Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs MEC, also on the same issue. Then immediately after that, we turn attention to the country's crime situation, and the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Defence and Military Veterans, Dakota Legoete, comparing the current murder rates and situation that we face as far as crime is concerned to war zones, and mentioning some of them and saying that 26,000 people dead in 1 year really puts us in that league of countries that are in a war zone, except of course we are not in a war zone. So that's where we are going over the next half hour. Let's get into it then. The second hour of the morning brief starts now.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an ABSA Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. ABSA Private Banking customers can invest from just R1. Open via the ABSA Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. ABSA is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
13 minutes after 7, a cultural and legal fault line has opened up in the Eastern Cape after the alleged coronation of a self-proclaimed king at a Nigerian community event in Gugompo City, formerly East London, and that has triggered a strong backlash from traditional authorities. For example, the Eastern Cape House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders has described the move as not only unlawful under the Traditional and Khoisan Leadership Act, but as a result, as a direct affront to the authority of recognized structures, particularly within the Amakhabe kingdom. At the heart of the dispute is a broader tension between cultural expression and constitutional order, and where the boundaries lie when communities assert identity within another country's legal framework. Let's speak to Inkosi Mpumalanga Gwadiso, the chairperson of the Eastern Cape Provincial House of Traditional Leaders. Good morning and thank you for your time. So this came out and you saw the videos that were being shared, your own reading and reflections as the Eastern Cape Provincial House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders on this coronation.
Good morning and good morning to the viewers and good morning to you, Thulasizwe. Thank you for this time. My reading of what was circulating on the media, I don't know whether I would say it was a church service or or a coronation per se. But as it comes out that it's a coronation of a king, well, it surprised the Eastern Cape because it's not expected to happen that way. That's why we feel it is frowning upon the existing structures of traditional leadership in the Eastern Cape, because you don't just do that. Let's understand that it is said that these are Nigerians. And here we have an act that is governing traditional leadership, that is also stipulating what processes need to be taken for a coronation or recognition for that matter, and where and all that. So I am not sure, and I don't believe that they have met all that. And let me go to Thulasizwe, the normal course of events when you visit a country, because my understanding is that these are Nigerians that came at the behest of South Africa. And when you talk South Africa, you talk also the kings of South Africa in terms of welcoming these Nigerians to come and be part of the society in South Africa, because the government is representative of the communities and the kings of the country.
So which protocols, Nkosi Kwatiso, do you believe were ignored that should have been followed?
First of all, Thulasizwe, here we have jurisdictions. When you come into an area that is the jurisdiction of a king, you are a subject of that king. You go and pay respect to the king, and you remain as a subject of that king. You don't turn tomorrow and say you are declaring yourself a king in a jurisdiction of a king. So that is the problem that we have. And also here, for whomever is going to be recognized as a traditional leader or declares himself as a traditional leader, here you have to have a jurisdiction in terms of land, jurisdiction in terms of recognized traditional community. So I don't know if all those things are met by those Nigerians. So we said this needs to be investigated, and also necessary steps should be taken. If they need to be shown the other way of doing things, they need to be shown that.
Yeah. And in fact, I understand you are calling for them to issue out an apology.
Indeed. They need to issue out an apology, because we believe that you don't start there, because once you do that, you are spitting on the present king and present communities that are here in the country under the jurisdiction of the kingdom.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Nkosi Mpumalanga Kwatiso, the chairperson of the Eastern Cape Provincial House of Traditional Leaders. Listening to that is the MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in the Eastern Cape, Zolile Williams. Good morning to you, MEC, and thank you for your time. Why is this a matter that is not peripheral and perhaps should end at intrigue, and people see it and perhaps are intrigued by it and scroll past and say, oh, well, this happened, and move on from it? Why is it such an important issue?
Good morning, Sizwe, and good morning to the listeners of SAFM and the chairperson of the House, Nkosi Kwatiso. Well, Tula says this is very serious. The Eastern Cape, as you would know, is divided into 7 jurisdictions with 7 kings at the helm of those jurisdictions. Therefore, it implies that the land in the Eastern Cape is already divided under the 7 kingdoms. There is no specific land that is uninhabited, and therefore somebody else could come and claim to be king in that particular area. You would remember that the 9 wars of dispossession were fought by the Nguni people of the Eastern Cape, and therefore those wars of dispossession, actually there was spillage of blood, and therefore for any one, including the Nigerian nationals who are the Igbo community, to come to the jurisdiction of the Khachabe kingdom and claim to be a kingship within that particular jurisdiction is actually tantamount to a coup or an overthrow of the kingdom of Amakhachabe, of the late Sandile. And therefore it's quite sensitive. One who does that is actually touching the nerve that is very sensitive, and he actually shakes the core of the existence of Amaxhosa people. And so it can't be a side issue. It's quite a serious matter, which the kingdom has raised with us in government, and we have therefore launched an investigation working together with the House of Traditional Leaders, Contra Lesa, and our department.
MEC, have you tried to reach out?
That's how serious the matter is.
Yeah, have you tried to reach out to that community? Because, one can imagine that perhaps they are not seeking to lay claim to any entitlements in terms of the state. That's one, I imagine. We haven't spoken to them, and maybe in the coming days we will. But my understanding is that they're not seeking to lay claim to any entitlements in terms of the country's statutes. And perhaps it could be argued that it's mere celebration of their culture, celebrating the diversity that South Africa has come to embrace over a period of time. Would that still be problematic? And have you tried to reach out to them?
Well, Caesar, we did reach out to them. We've sent the officials from our department of the traditional affairs unit to go and investigate. Well, they tried to trivialize the matter and make it appear as if it's not a serious matter. We then said we are going to formally investigate the status of those people who are participating in that, whether they are indeed legal, they have a legal status to be in the country. And we're working together with the International Relations Department and the Department of Home Affairs, and our team from Contra Lesa, the House, and the department is working with those people. Yes, they indicated, apologized to the country for us, but we said they must make
a public
apology.
So they've already asked you to apologize on their behalf?
Yeah, no, they did apologize to our staff who were meeting with them, but we said, no, they have to go and present themselves to the king and apologize to the Amakhachabe nation, so that all protocols relating to them declaring themselves as a kingdom within a kingdom are followed traditionally.
All right. MEC, let's leave it there for this morning. Zolile Williams is the Eastern Cape Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs MEC.
Tula Sizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
24 minutes after 7. The country's crime crisis is increasingly being framed in the language of conflict, with lawmakers, at least one of them, who leads a significant portfolio committee within the state security and, safety portfolio of committees, warning that the scale of violence now mirrors conditions seen in war zones. More than 26,000 murders in a single year have prompted Parliament's defence leadership to support the deployment of the South African National Defence Force, not as a solution, we understand, but as a stopgap measure to stabilize communities under siege. The chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans, Dakota Legoete, argues that the sheer sophistication and firepower of criminal networks have overwhelmed conventional policing capacity. He joins us to pick up on the conversation. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. This emanates from a briefing that you held as a cluster of committees in Parliament, in which this detail came through of 26,000 murders in 1 year. That is significantly higher than, we normalize the abnormal, I suppose, at about 20,000. Now we've breached that point of 26,000, and it seems to be increasing. What was the point you were making about the state of crime in the country, as well as, in particular, the crime of murder?
Thank you very much, Tula Sizwe, and good morning to all the listeners at home. Look, the number of 26,000 is not just a number or a statistics. These are human lives we have lost in our country in the hands of the criminal element. And it warrants something to be done from our side as lawmakers, from the side of the law enforcement agencies, as well as the criminal system, criminal justice system, to do something. So we cannot continue with more than 26,000 body bags that we bury every year in our country as a result of the violence and the crime that happens in our neighborhood. You know, for instance, even in the briefing, I made an example. It will cost the country about 86 million rand to do this operation prosper, including the new operation that we still have to do from the SONA as the portfolio committee. Now, what it means is that on average, a funeral in our country costs 100,000 rand. So for 26,000 people, you spend almost 2.6 billion rand. But to get the defense force on the floor to assist in this regard, it costs 86 million rand. So if you do count the cost benefit analysis.
Chairperson, Mr. Legoete, I truly apologize. Please hold on. Let's try and call you on the WhatsApp line, because we are not getting the full benefit of clarity from that conversation. Just battling with the line, it's not great at all. And so we are just battling to hear what Dakota Legoete is saying. And we will pick up with him in a moment. And we want him to pick up at the point at which he was talking about the cost of deployment under what's known as Operation Prosper. I believe we have you back on the line, Mr. Legoete. Pick up where you left off. You were talking about the deployment then of the SANDF in light of the situation that you've said resembles a war zone.
Yes, indeed, it resembles a war zone, because the number of 26,000 people is not just a number or a statistics. These are human lives that we lost as a result of the criminal element and the encroachment that the criminal element has done to the peace and stability of our nation. Our people in this country are living in fear. They live in high fence, high walls, estates. They live with bodyguards. Those who cannot afford, they have to pay extortionists some protection fee. They also have to pay SARS, to pay me as a parliamentarian, to pay a defense force member, a South African police service, an intelligence officer. That's double dipping on the taxpayers and ratepayers, especially that our people are living in fear. And to be honest, there is no war in our country, but there is this particular low-key civil war where South Africa is in a war with itself, because there's no external threat. This is an internal threat, and it must be treated as such. Because some of the people who are doing this type of crime, for instance, your securities in illegal mining pits, some of those people, from the briefing and reports we received, is that they are retired soldiers from our neighbors, and some of them are trained in full military combat, including the usage of high caliber weapons. To take a policeman or a woman to that particular crime scene is to donate their lives, because going there with a pistol against a high caliber weapon, we are donating your life. So what is very clear is that for that equal firepower of a high caliber weapon, you need a response of a high caliber weapon power from the side of the National Defence Force, because it is within our mandate in terms of the Constitution of the Republic, Section 200, Subsection 2, to protect the Republic, its people, sovereignty, territorial integrity, uphold the Constitution, and all international law. So there's nothing illegal that is done by deploying the Defence Force, but it's even further explained under Section 201 that the President has the prerogative to can deploy joint operations of SADF and the South African Police Service, including in that prerogative, is to declare war to any of our external threat or even an internal threat.
All right, Mr. Lekhwete, let me ask you to hold on. I need to take quick headlines because I think because of the difficulties we had, we've not really done justice to this conversation. So if you don't mind, I'll come back to you. Let me take news headlines with Ann Musa as well as a traffic update, and then we conclude this conversation.
Good morning. Thanks to us in the headlines. The Gauteng Health Department says it's taking steps to recover 4.6 billion rand in outstanding patient fees. It says a significant portion of 2.4 billion rand is owed by self-paying patients, including foreign nationals. Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources Gwede Mantashe will be back at Ikapa Minerals Mine in Kimberley today, following the recovery of 3 of the 5 bodies that were trapped after a mud rush incident last month. Mine rescue teams brought to the surface 2 bodies yesterday, a week after finding the first body. And the head of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, says the US and Israeli war with Iran has led to an oil crisis in the Middle East that's worse than the 2 oil shocks of the 1970s and the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war put together. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Stays very heavy on the N3 and N12 options out of Germiston and Alberton. Back to work Monday with bigger volumes on the highway networks coming out from the N12, 4 Trekker Road, the N3 from Rand Airport into Elan's past Cement Factory through Held Mason into that restricted zone. If you're on your way to the airport, need a ton of time to get through. N12's pretty busy from Benoni through Boksburg, and then more queues as you line up into Galuli's interchange. And the N1 from Soweto's got traffic all the way through really to about Rivonia Road today. N4 into Pretoria, queuing up on the Emelathledi Highway from Watermeyer down towards the N1 connection. Durban very busy. The M4 inbound, a crash at Clarewood. That's heavy back through Jacobs. Crash on the N2 north before Spaghetti Junction, causing big delays from Cement Factory side up towards 4 level. And the M7 into Pinetown, St John's Avenue Bridge. Heaviness right back to Hunt Stepman Highway. That breakdown between Ashburton and Market Road is still there. If you're on your way into Pietermaritzburg, that is one heck of a queue as well as you line up into a single lane section. Cape Town's M5 from Southfield Parkwood all the way through to Kuburg interchange is heavy. That's passing an earlier crash just up in the Maitland area. The R300's heavy from Delft all the way to Van Riebeek Road, and a collision on the N1 inbound at the R300 means a pushback queue to Kryfontein. With the traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Tulasizwe Simelane.
All right, before we go to Zai, let's conclude our conversation with Dakota Lekhwete, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans. Let's pick up then on, you were talking there, Mr. Lekhwete, about what you're picking up from, some information that's come through to you about the sophistication and firepower of the people that are involved in some of these crimes. And I don't think we have him on the line yet. All right. Do we have you back on the line, Mr. Lekhwete?
Yes, I'm back, my brother.
So let's pick up then on the deployment of the SANDF. Why is that a solution in a context where many would say we should be focusing on strengthening our ordinary law enforcement. Also, with the dynamic that says the SANDF mainly plays a supporting role to the SAPS under this deployment. And one wonders what happens at the point at which they find themselves confronted with a violent crime scenario. That whole picture of the South African National Defence Force aimed at guarding against external threats or internal threats in context of, a civil war of that kind, would have to now turn their firearms on, in some instances, people who are South African nationals. That's a bit of an uncomfortable constitutional position, isn't it?
Oh, thank you very much, Tula Sizwe. It may seem or look like uncomfortable, but I think as a country, we need to view our worldview in terms of what we call a victim and a perpetrator. We have not been victim-centric because 26,000 of our fellow citizens and patriots are killed in the hands of the criminals. I made an example that police, even if you call them to an illegal mining pit, those people who are guarding those pits, some of them are trained military officers in military combat from our neighbors. They carry automatic rifles. You send a policeman or woman there with a pistol, you are donating the life of that person and that policewoman. And so you need the same firepower to respond to the same firepower so that we stabilize our country, because we cannot lose over 26,000 human beings. And those people are breadwinners, are parents. Some of them, they leave behind a crisis, which would be a crisis of society going forward.
But is it an issue of firepower, or is it more an issue of the other elements that are required for law enforcement, your crime intelligence, your investigative capacity, the elements that make it a point that crime does not pay and people know that if you commit a crime, you will be caught?
Indeed, you are correct, Tula Sizwe, that it needs a multidisciplinary approach that involves the prosecution authority, that involves the border management authority, that involves South African Revenue Services, because we need to cut the economy of gang. We need to cut the networks of illegal and illicit products and contrabands in our country. SARS will be important because we need customs there to deal with that. You need also Department of Social Development, so that when you deal with the gang recruitment, you can also take whoever is from gangs through a rehabilitation process to be reintegrated back into society. You need the Department of Labor to bring in the skills fund so that whoever who is a victim of this particular situation can be taught self-reliance through artisanal training or some skills program. So it needs that multidisciplinary, we agree. But as it is now, 26,000 people are dying. There's a need. We know that the Defence Force is not a silver bullet, but we need to stabilize the situation because South Africans are living under fear. We may be talking today and tomorrow we may be statistics. So we don't have to wait for anyone to wipe off anyone's life. But it's even worse that we are under threat of things like illicit substances, where young people in this country face a threat that will not need to build universities and TVET colleges going to the future of schools. We'll have to build rehabilitation centers because many of our young people are starting to drown in Nyaupe, and that creates other societal problems, that families are fighting, lives are ruined, and the country is directionless. We cannot continue that way under our watch as a portfolio committee and as part of the leadership of the country.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Dakota Legoete, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. For the first time in a long time, I heard people say expressions from the 80s or 70s, I don't know, six mabon. I had not heard that expression in a very long time. And that's because Orlando Pirates put half a dozen past TS Galaxy.
Yo, tell us, like you said, not even the six, but there was also that comical one that got in on the act. So yeah, Pirates having fun, and definitely that fun extending itself to the morning. A 6-star performance for them in Mbombela, thrashing TX Galaxy 6-0, climbing top of the Betway Premiership. It was a dominant display from the Buccaneers, who simply outclassed Galaxy from start to finish. Here's their coach, Abdusalam Wadu.
The boys started exactly the game like we wanted, very high. We wanted to put a very high pressure since the beginning to try to find the net quickly in order to find space. I think they really been efficient. I think it's the first time that we at least converted, let's say, 80% of our chances. It helped because most of the game we had the league. I think the team who has created the most chances. So today it was a fantastic day for us.
Let's go now to more action, and that's in the Betway Premiership. It was a night of narrow 1-0 results. Durban City beat Richards Bay 1-0. Siwalele also won 1-0 against Orbit College, and Golden Arrows edged Sekhukhune United by a goal to 0. And elsewhere, we've seen Mamelodi Sundowns. Well, they're reaching the semi-final of the CAF Champions League after a 3-2 aggregate win over Stade Malien. The PSL Giants, who registered a 3-0 win in Pretoria in the first leg, survived despite going down 2-0 in the second leg. That was yesterday in Bamako. And from there we go to some other developments in sport, and it is the Live Golf Challenge, which took place in South Africa, here in Johannesburg for the first time, with the newly crowned Live Golf champion Bryson DeChambeau praising his caddy and the Crus's GC teammates for helping him persevere through difficult moments.
Just grateful. It's been a tough few weeks, and you know it's not always sunshine and rainbows. But I can tell you that having these 3 great people up here and my caddy and the team around me really helped me persevere on and through tough moments. So a lot of it was just stuff that I can't really explain, but ultimately I'll tell you that I'm super grateful for how this has all played out, and super emotional. I really don't have much more to say other than these guys stepped up today. I knew they could. I know we're probably one of the best teams, if not the best team in golf, and I knew that they had it in them today, and it was cool to see them behind the green as I was finishing up on the last hole, and knowing that I needed to get up and down out of it was a 54-yard shot again that I did not hit to 4 feet this time. Okay. But I got up and down, and I was proud of the fact that I showed some resilience there, and knocked it right in the hole, and did what I did in the playoffs. So just gratitude.
That's the newly crowned Live Golf South African champion Bryson DeChambeau on the morning brief. That's your sport. We'll leave it there on the fairways for now. We'll have more top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
This February, fall in love with the journey. No phones, no flights, just determination, connection, and the open road. From breathtaking landscapes to unexpected challenges. Race Across the World is back. Bigger, bolder, and more emotional than ever. Because sometimes the best way to find yourself is to travel together. Race Across the World Season 4, Thursdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3. This February, love the truth, no matter how unsettling it is. They were called accidents, a slip, a fall, a tragic mistake. But what if they weren't? Fatal Fall, Murder or Accident investigates suspicious deaths. From balconies, staircases, and cliffs. Where one question refuses to go away. Did someone push them? Through forensic science and haunting testimony, the truth is uncovered. Fatal Fall, Murder or Accident. Tuesdays 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Exciting news, South Africa. SABC TV Licenses has partnered with Capitec to make paying your TV license simple, affordable, and accessible. If you're a Capitec client, sign into the app and click on Transact. Next, select Pay Bills, then click Pay At and enter your reference number to complete your payment. It's as easy as that. You'll receive instant SMS confirmation. Now you can keep your stories alive and your screens shining bright. TV licenses, pay yours, make a difference.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Right, let's turn to Ndauling for the second update of the morning. Ndauling, good morning. Let's start in retail. Tell me about TFG starting to see, there goes that expression, green shoots. Here and there in the South African markets?
While it is seeing some green shoots here at home, that wasn't enough to offset a difficult year for TFG. Now, the retailer flagged improving momentum in the local market towards the end of the period, with stronger sales and early signs of margin recovery, suggesting trading conditions are stabilizing. That shift helped lift sentiment around the stock, even as the broader performance remains under pressure. Now, the bigger challenge sits offshore. Operations in Australia and the UK continue to underdeliver, with weak demand and limited growth weighing on group performance. While the acquisition of White Stuff has added some support in the UK, underlying growth remains muted. As a result, the Fushini Group still expects a significant drop in earnings for the year, also factoring in sizable impairments linked to its international portfolio. Now, more details on the performance will be released when the group opens its books in June.
And Hulamin, tell me about them and their warnings of a full year loss. What's that about?
So the aluminium producer expects to swing into an annual loss after a difficult 2025 marked by operational disruptions and external headwinds. A key issue was a planned shutdown of its main plant to install and upgrade equipment for its can body expansion project. While necessary for future growth, restarting operations proved challenging, with the mills taking time to run smoothly again. Now, the slow ramp up reduced output and led to quality issues, ultimately hurting sales and profitability. At the same time, a stronger rand added pressure by eroding export earnings. The group now expects a headline loss per share, which is a reversal from the previous year's profit. On a normalized basis, continuing operations are also in the red. Moving forward, though, with exports exposed to global volatility and tariffs, Hulamin is investing in its local market to build a more stable and resilient business.
All right, lastly, how are the markets looking at this hour, Ndauling?
Kicking things off in Asia, markets in negative territory, with the Hong Kong Hang Seng losing 3.3%. This as the standoff between US President Trump and Iran over the Strait of Hormuz intensifies, pushing oil prices higher and further fueling global inflation worries. Oil is up 1.3% at $107 per barrel this hour. Now, that weighing on U.S. markets with futures in negative territory. Traders on that front will also be eyeing jobs data, which is out tomorrow. Bringing it back home, stocks closed in the red last week, with the all share down 0.45%. The rand under pressure this morning, giving up most of its gains recorded this year, back above 17 to the dollar at 17.17, 22.84 to the pound, and 19.81 to the euro.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. We'll touch base with you one more time. Ndauling will come back with more insights for you just after 8:30.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
SAFM traffic with momentum. Just as you plan your route, only 15% of households plan for retirement. Plan yours today. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor for advice that meets your context.
SAFM. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Pretty heavy on Joburg's Mike 1 straight up the middle this morning as you come off the N12 at Uncle Charlie's from Ormonde right through to Parktown. That's heavy. And then you really stay in just congested traffic all the way through to the Greyston Drive exit. The N1 from Bayers Nordia round to Rivonia Road quite slow, and southbound backlogging into the William Mandela off-ramp as well. Delays from almost back as far as Rivonia Road. Very slow getting up the N3 this morning. First problem is the roadworks or the traffic restrictions around Heldene. So coming up from Rand Airport interchange on the N3 through Heldene, and then you just stay in traffic all the way into Galulis and up through Edenvale to about Modderfontein Road before you're out of that. There's also a problem coming south this morning with a breakdown on the N3 at Galuli. So southbound from Edenvale, it's all quite heavily backed up as well. A crash on the R24 at the airport interchange, so just after Barbara Road it gets heavy, and separately coming off the R21 onto the R24 down to Barbara Road. That is quite slow going as well. R21 on your way to the Pretoria side, leaving the airport. Don't forget the roadworks at Olifantsfontein. Looks like an additional closure in there. That traffic is quite heavily backed up in towards that Clayville exit. Straight into Pretoria using Paul Kruger. Very slow. Traffic lights down as you come out of Capital Park at Blood Street Junction. And the N4, this is the Rustenburg or Bakwena Highway. Roadworks as you emerge out of Doornpoort Plaza on that ramp to the N1 South. Same as we had last week, getting it again this morning. Durban the N2, earlier crash at Spaghetti Junction's being cleared, but it's left a backlog from Cement Factory through to Westwood Mall territory. Crash on the M4 just before the M7. So we're talking south of Durban, the Southern Freeway. That's heavy. As you come off the N2 and turn onto the Southern Freeway into that Jacobs area, you're pretty much into some real heavy and go slow traffic. And the breakdown between Ashburton and Pietermaritzburg finally cleared. That N3 into Pietermaritzburg easing up. Cape Town, heavy pressure if you're on the R300. You're going to sit from Delft all the way through to Van Riebeek Road. Problems coming off there on the Strand Road in towards the Stickland area. Vehicle burning on the Kliphevel Road, N1 Highway Bridge. So out in Justenburg, that R304 is under quite a bit of pressure. And a crash on the M1 inbound at the R300. That's pushing a backlog of Monday morning traffic into Cape Town back as far as Kryfontein. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, they say. But my toaster isn't broken exactly. It just lands my toast on the kitchen floor. You see, some things only kinda never work. Like a financial plan based on generic advice. That's why Momentum accredited financial advisors take the time to understand you and only then apply their expertise. Advice meets your context. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Neighbor to neighbor, show me this one is for you. It's ngukutshele. If you didn't replace your SASSA Gold card before, your turn is coming. From around April, you can replace it with the Postbank Black Card. It's simple. Bring your ID and visit a Postbank replacement site near you. For general questions, call Postbank Customer Care on 0800 53 54 55. To find active replacement sites, dial *120 *355 #. Postbank will never ask for your PIN. Terms and conditions apply.
Proud of your price skills? Prouder that your car is paid off? Well, with Outsurance Essential Car Insurance, you could be saving too. 63-year-old Mudisa pays only 344 Rand a month for his 2012 Chevrolet Cruze, and his claims are paid in cash within only 5 working days. Get Outsurance Essential Car Insurance today for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Call Tulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, where do I even begin? Let me start with the responses that are coming through to the conversation around the king, the Nigerian king that has been coronated in the Eastern Cape, as well as the concerns being raised by traditional leadership in the province, as well as the provincial government.
Good morning, Tulasizwe. Good morning yourself. Fellow listeners, happy Monday.
Tulas, the story you opened with, quite interesting. People crowning their king in South Africa. And the way you put it, I think is the problem with South Africa and being too soft on things that if you just nip in the bud with force, saying it will fuel xenophobia. What? There's nothing about fueling xenophobia here. You cannot come from where you come and then come make a king here. No ways. That thing must be unlawful. It must be dealt with, nipped in the bud. Immigration must go in and check who there has a legal permit to be here. Cut it now. Now, while still early. Otherwise, every other action that will be taken from here on, you yourself will be saying it's xenophobia.
Morning to us. You know what is happening at Eastern Cape? It shows how weak our country is. And also the so-called good constitution that we have. People who are taking advantage of it. There's no way that you can go to another country and declare yourself a king. No way. In this world, there's no way. It's like you coming into my own house and say you are the man of the house in my own house. You cannot. It shows how weak this country is.
Regarding the Nigerian community in East London who have appointed a king amongst themselves, what would have happened if a white or an Indian community had done the same thing? Would there be such a hullabaloo? I don't think so. I think this is tribal authority over asserting itself and feeling that someone is not recognizing their authority and usurping their powers, which is not the case. So I think that you need to be a little more tolerant. It is only something that's cultural and is not going to affect the status quo.
Good morning. Why did the ANC allow the Nigerians to come to our country? All they have come to do is bring hardship and sorrow to our nation. They need to leave.
Good morning to Lasizwe, the crew and the SAF listeners at large. The whole issue of the coronation of the king of Nigeria, whatever that happened in the Gombo city, as you call it, I don't know, just to see how the mockery of that name even comes up with. I wonder, very soon this man will be declared that he's the king of the Nigerians, and he will want to have a salary or a equitable share from government. Believe me, with the ANC government, anything is possible. That's me thinking. Busy from Pretoria. Have a lovely morning.
All right. Thank you for that. I love how he's got his main point that he's making about the Nigerian king coronated in Gugompo City, but doesn't miss the opportunity to address me about the name of the city itself. I didn't name it. It's not me who named it. I was not involved. I was nowhere near that scene at all. It is what it is. It's been made official. And on it goes, really, around that debate, around that coronation of the king, the Nigerian king in Gugompo City. But I want to pivot because another thing that we've been trying to do is pay tribute to Chuck Norris and a whole lot of the other people of that generation, right? The action hero of that generation and what it meant for us, them as pop culture icons and how we rationalized and fit them into our initial and early understandings of the world. And of course, the opportunity to share Chuck Norris jokes and Chuck Norris facts never far off from that.
Good morning to Lars Sumalani. I trust you well in Cape Town. Another Chuck Norris classic is Chuck Norris can even answer a missed call. Have a great day.
Good morning, Tulas and the team. Good show as always. What I know about Chuck Norris is that he served in the Vietnam War, and Texas gave him an honorary a ranger status in Texas for his role in the Texas Ranger series. Tulas. PK, thank you.
Yeah, PK, you're absolutely right. He did serve in Vietnam. And in fact, it was during that time that we are told he started training hard in martial arts, especially in karate. That's where I suppose, things really start taking a particular direction for him, such that later on he's able to leverage that karate experience and pivot into Hollywood and the movie making scene. So you're absolutely spot on. I didn't know though about the whole thing about him being made an honorary ranger in Texas. I didn't know about that. That's quite interesting, an interesting fact. Let me read a message very quickly. Someone says, "Hey Tulas, it is sad what is taking place in Nelson Mandela Bay. Everything is messed up. Companies are not happy at all. The city is dirty. CBD is dirty and smelling bad." So an issue and a concern about local government, a city that's really been under the spotlight for quite some time in the country. Let's see if it's possible at all to follow through on the interventions being done in Nelson Mandela Bay and how far that process has gone. But for now, 8 a.m. and Musa standing by with the latest news.
Outsurance Essential is made for older cars. Claims are paid in cash within 5 working days, and you choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185.
Thanks to us. In our top stories, all 5 bodies of the trapped Ikapa mine workers retrieved, and Gauteng Health steps up efforts to recover unpaid patient fees. Good morning. Mine rescue teams at Ikapa Minerals Mine in Kimberley in the Northern Cape have retrieved all 5 bodies of the mine workers who were trapped underground during a mud rush incident on the 17th of last month. The first body was retrieved last week Monday. The other 2 were brought to the surface yesterday morning. The last bodies were taken out in the early hours of this morning. Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources Gwede Mantashe will be back at the Ikapa Minerals mine this morning for the 3rd time since the incident. The diamond mine, which employed over 1,000 miners, has applied for liquidation. The Gauteng Health Department says it's taking steps to recover 4.6 billion rand in outstanding patient fees. It says a significant portion of 2.4 billion rand is owed by self-paying patients, including foreign nationals. The department has appointed debt collectors and is targeting traceable debt categories. Siyabonga Jikwana is the Chief Director of Health Economics and Finance at the Gauteng Health Department.
We've appointed 5 debt collectors. These are the debt collectors that have been appointed by National Treasury. Our job is to ensure that we can try by all means to recover as much as we could. We started with them 5 months back. And what we have seen during this period is they have managed to collect more than 20 million thus far, which is a great deal of improvement in terms of revenue collection from us.
Gauteng's Organised Crime Unit Detective Sergeant Fani Nkosi is expected to conclude his testimony before the Matlanga Commission this morning. Last week, Nkosi testified about his links with members of the alleged criminal cartel, taxi tycoons and relations with some top officials in the city of Tshwane. He returns to the stand at 9:30 this morning at the Bridget Mabandla Justice College in Pretoria. Sibahle Mota reports.
Sergeant Nkosi has also testified about his involvement in the murder investigation of hip-hop artist Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tibbs Motswane. Sergeant Nkosi testified to the commission that he was involved with the investigation in the early stages. He told the commission that Motswane was the nephew of taxi tycoon and businessman Mthakathi Mswazi. Mthakathi Mswazi, who was introduced to the commission as a family representative of the late taxi boss Mswazi Msibi, is allegedly linked to members of the criminal underworld.
The South African Weather Service has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Gauteng, excluding the city of Tshwane today. Heavy downpours, localized flooding, hail and damaging winds are expected. Lihlohonolo Tobela is a weather forecaster.
So we currently have a high pressure system reaching in the east that's expected to result in more moisture that may enhance a possibility of severe thunderstorms into the afternoon. And this will not only impact Gauteng, but also the Northern Cape, the Northwest, Free State, and the southern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. But it will become significant with low likelihood though over the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal and the escarpments of Mpumalanga. So expect more heavy downpours that may lead to localized flooding and the possibility of damaging winds, hail, and excessive lightning into the evening.
And finally, the head of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, says the US and Israeli war with Iran has led to an oil crisis in the Middle East that's worse than the two oil shocks of the 1970s and the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war put together. The BBC Suranjana Taware has the details.
He's currently consulting with governments around the globe if it is necessary to release more stocks of oil and that the global economy is facing a major threat today. Given that this is the situation, this is what the world's main energy agency is saying, there are many challenges still ahead. When you talk about unlocking supply, that takes time. It doesn't happen within a day.
Recapping the top story, mine rescue teams at Ikapa Minerals Mine in Kimberley in the Northern Cape have retrieved all 5 bodies of the mine workers who were trapped underground during a mud rush incident on the 17th of last month. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Theft, accident and 1 million rand third-party cover for your older car. Outsurance Essential has it all. Get a quote. SMS car to 43185. That's car to 43185.
Like VHS, your car may be older, but it's got character. Now with Outsurance Essential car insurance, you could get savings too. 45-year-old Lucky pays only 380 Rand a month for his 2024 Ford Figo, and he gets third-party cover up to 1 million Rand. Get Outsurance Essential car insurance today for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS car to 43185. That's car to 43185. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Quite heavy traffic around the airport at Joburg. Got queues going into a crash in on the R24 at the R21. So just after Barber Road, onto the 21 or into the airport, it all gets heavy. And separately, coming off the R21 or exiting the airport, quite a heavy queue to Barber Road. Then you get some really big delays on that 24 through Edenvale onto the N12 merge into Galulis for a turn up towards a broken down vehicle on the N3 north at Modderfontein Road. So very heavy getting through Galulis from the east and jam-packed from Bedfordview up into Edenvale. Before you even get there, of course, the N3 from Germiston, heavy backlogs into Bedfordview, into the restriction section there. The Mike 1 is heavy from Goldreef City all the way through to Sandton. You're going to sit with some traffic company. The N1 from Bayers Nordia round to Ravonia still jam-packed as well. And it looks like an issue on the N1 South coming out of Pretoria between Borta Avenue and John Foster. Yeah, just confirming, that's a crash. That's pushing a delay back towards the R21 highway. The breakdown after Ashburton on your way to Pietermaritzburg, that scene is being cleared. That traffic moving along quite nicely now. The M4 side Durban, a crash near the M7. That's heavy coming off the N2 highway up through Jacobs into Claremont area, or Clarewood, I should say, on your way into Durban. And Cape Town, a crash on the N1 inbound at the R300. That's heavy from Kraaifontein. A vehicle burning out a little bit further at Justenburg on the R304 at the M1 highway bridge. There's a heavy backlog going in and out of Stellenbosch there. And looks like a problem on the R300. Just past Stellenbosch Arterial. That's heavy as your lineup from Delft this morning. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket. Now, both the Proteas captains are admitting to fielding concerns despite the men levelling the T20 series against New Zealand. And Live Golf South Africa breaks the attendance records but there's been fan fights which stole the spotlight. We'll have the details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8. Welcome to the third hour of the Morning Brief on SAFM 104 to 107. It is great to be in your company. In the next few minutes, we'll be talking the cost of living crisis, and in particular, the prices of food, the rate at which they are increasing. There's new data that has come out from the Peter Maritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group. While we don't cover this every month, but from time to time you get a spike that jumps at you, right? That makes it worthwhile that actually we should revisit and talk about what exactly is happening. So we'll be speaking to Mervyn Abrahams, just talking about the spike that we are seeing in red meat in particular. The various packages that are sold of red meat that we are told has spiked quite significantly in the last while. And it happens in the context of the Human Rights Commission currently, in fact last week, having undertaken investigative hearings into the food system as a whole, asking the question of why it is that in a country that produces enough food to feed everyone, so many people still go to bed hungry. And in fact, the burden of disease remains high as far as diseases related to nutrition, poor nutrition are concerned. So there's that context, but also the context of imminent price hikes linked to the fuel price hike that we are factoring in already in the wake of disturbances in the Gulf region. So that whole complex situation is part of what Mervyn Abrahams will talk to us about. But before we get there, as always, let me just read a few of your messages that have come through. I want to start with the one's about the more serious matters, right? And then get to your Chuck Norris facts and Chuck Norris jokes that you've been sharing. So let me start with Daniel, who says, Mr. Lekwete, referring to Dakota Lekwete, the chairperson of the Defense Portfolio Committee, saying Mr. Lekwete kept emphasis on the donation, quote-unquote, donation of life of law enforcement officers. I couldn't help but laugh because the reality is law enforcement is actually afraid of these criminals, that they prefer to be alive than to rather be a quote-unquote donation of life, says Daniel. So Daniel, they're talking to the expression that was being used by Dakota Lekwete, saying that if you send law enforcement officials, police officials in particular, out onto the streets with pistols and they encounter heavily armed criminals, you are quote-unquote donating the life of those police officers. So just for context, if you don't get what Daniel is referring to there. Pale in Mankwing says, I think our constitution needs to be revisited. We can't allow someone from Nigeria to become a king in our country. This Immigration Act and Refugee Act needs to be revisited, says Pale in Mankwing. And then someone else says the Nigerian fake king must be deported. Why are you still trying to entertain this nonsense is beyond me. They must leave. If you cannot see this, this is the start of a takeover, then you are blind, and blind in capital letters, says that person. And then someone else says, South Africans, in fact, you South Africans are so weak, always complaining and calling for committees. If there's a king there, why doesn't he just tell them to leave his land? Better yet, I have no doubt they are illegally in the country. So why not just get Home Affairs to deport them and stop all this noise, asks that person. So that's that then, as far as those messages are concerned. Let me turn to the ones about Chuck Norris. Someone, Nabe L in Pretoria, says, Chuck Norris was once asked how many push-ups he can do, and he said, all of them. And in reference to what I asked Rob Byrne about what Chuck Norris would do to traffic. This person says, morning Tulas, you are asking the wrong question on Chuck Norris. The question is, what would traffic do if it met Chuck Norris? And then someone else says, the Chuck Norris memes. Chuck Norris doesn't get wet. The water gets Chuck Norrised. And then this one says, what I know about Chuck Norris is that he can make onions cry. So and on it goes then, those messages. And then the last one from DJ, is it DG? Deji in Cape Town. Deji in Cape Town says, 2026 is so bad that even the great Chuck opted out of 2026 with a picture of Chuck Norris with the year of birth 1940 and the year of death 2026. So let's keep the conversation going. Do call me 086 000 2032 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The third hour of the morning brief starts now.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
All right, the country's cost of living crisis is taking on a new and uncomfortable shape as the price of meat surges while basic staples become more affordable, forcing households into difficult nutritional trade-offs. Red meat, once central to everyday meals, is increasingly out of reach, with some prices climbing by more than 30% over the past years. Consumers are adapting, we're told, by downgrading cuts, shrinking portions, or turning to plant-based alternatives, even as experts warn of the long-term implications for nutrition and food security. Compounding all of this, of course, is the strain of looming fuel price hikes, as well as the Eskom tariff increases, both of which threaten to push food inflation higher through transport and production costs. So let's speak to Mervyn Abrahams, Program Coordinator at the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So we've been focusing on a story about inflation and how the Reserve Bank has seen, inflation moderating and coming in within initially the band 3 to 6% and now smack bang on target, the target being 3%. But what does that translate to in terms of the work that you do as far as the prices of basic foods are concerned?
So good morning to Latisba and good morning to all your listeners. To Latisba, in an economy like South Africa where we have very high levels of inequality, how the economic situation impacts the lower part of the population or the lower income level part of the population is very different to the upper part of the population. So what we have seen is that the cost of living crisis by and large impacts the lower income level of the population, and we're talking here about 60 to 70% of South Africa's population, so it is the majority. What we have seen, though, Tulasizwe, is that over the last 2 years, that food prices have begun to basically stabilize, even though it's at a higher level. So just for instance, our food basket in February of this year is standing at 5,383 rand. Now that's a 1.3% higher than February 2025. But 3 years ago, we saw that annual increase to be around about 3.9%. So we have seen a moderation. But what that does mean is that if you compare the current cost, even the moderate cost, with the levels of income that people have and how they have to spread that income across the household budget, then the situation remains dire. So, for instance, just one example. So the national minimum wage for the month of February, if somebody earned it exactly as the minimum wage figure is, then that would probably have brought in something like 4,606 rand, which is lower than the basket of food. And then when you consider that 60% of that national minimum wage goes on two expenses, which is transport and electricity, and then you are left with 1,824 rand for food. Divide that amongst 4 people and you end up with 456 rand, which is 47% below the food poverty line. So the situation is already dire, even as we look towards these dark storms coming with this conflict in the Middle East and other geopolitical factors.
What's happening on the red meat front? Those numbers are staggering that you are citing for the increases. And please place them in context. Are they over a period of a year?
So over a period of a year. So we track 2 kilograms of beef. So over the last year, we have seen a 20% increase on the cost. So, for instance, in February 2025, 2 kgs on average would have cost you 176 rand. This year in February, it would cost you 212 rand. So that's about a 36 rand increase that we had seen over the year. And we are told by farmers that lots of this has to do with the foot and mouth disease that has been afflicting large part of the South African meat producing farms, agriculture, and they don't seem to see a way out until they start vaccinating against this disease. And we are told that the vaccination process is taking extremely long. So we expect that meat prices will remain this high for at least another 6 months or so.
And by contrast, with other basic foods, other basic staples, such as cabbage, potatoes, and oranges, those seem to be moderating in terms of their prices. What's this leading to in terms of the trade-offs that you're finding households are needing to do? Because the beauty about what you do is it's work led by women shoppers across the country, the way I understand it. And I suppose you glean a lot of insights about what that translates to for diets back at home.
Yes, so when women and yes, you're correct that we do, it's women shoppers who provide us with the data, and in addition to that, they also, as part of their work, they also listen at taxi ranks and chat to other women to find out what is going on. And so essentially what we are hearing is that meat has almost disappeared off the plates of ordinary South Africans. Because they just cannot afford a 20% increase. And the strangest thing is, I might just regress a little bit, the strangest thing is when beef prices or chicken prices increase massively, then the survival strategy is for cheaper cuts of meat. But what then happens is because the demand for cheaper cuts of meat increases, then the prices increase. So one example, for instance, would be, beef livers. So women started moving towards beef livers because they were cheaper. But we have seen in February a 22%, so a 2% higher increase on beef livers than on beef. So you see as demand change, so prices also increase. So meat has basically disappeared. Vegetables, because of its seasonality, so wheat crops will be when it's harvested, the prices come down. When it's planting season, there's less demand, there's less on the market, so prices go up. But women generally know how to maneuver between fresh vegetables, and that's become the staple foods in households. But the other thing is that women, there is a little basket of things that women must buy first, they tell us, which is what we call the core food. So that would include things like maize meal, it would include rice, it would include flour, it would include sugar, perhaps some sugar beans, and cooking oil, because that's what you use as a basic ingredient to cook any meal. Now there we have seen the price of that core foods basically stabilize, but we are seeing again increases. So with maize meal, for instance, we've seen an annual increase, and with rice we've seen an annual increase. So that's really the kind of foods we have to protect against increases.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights, always conscientizing us and reminding us to focus on these truly important matters. Mervyn Abrahams, Program Coordinator at the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Neighbor to neighbor, show me this one is for you. If you didn't replace your Sasa Gold card before, your 10 is coming. From around April, you can replace it with the Postbank Black Card. It's simple. Bring your ID and visit a Postbank replacement site near you. For general questions, call Postbank Customer Care on 0800 53 54 55. To find active replacement sites, dial *120 *355#. Postbank will never ask for your PIN. Terms and conditions apply.
Exciting news, South Africa. SABC TV Licenses has partnered with Capitec to make paying your TV license simple, affordable, and accessible. If you're a Capitec client, sign in to the app and click on Transact. Next, select Pay Bills, then click Pay At and enter your reference number to complete your payment. It's as easy as that. You'll receive instant SMS confirmation. Now you can keep your stories alive and your screens shining bright. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
Call Tulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let me pick up on your calls. I've got Luvo in Gqeberha. Good morning to you, Luvo. If I can get you on. Having battles. Mpo, please help me on that side, if you are able. All right, Mpo, Luvo will get to you in a moment. I don't know what's happening with our studio. Something seems to happen on the weekend. By the time you get here on Monday, it's a different studio. It behaves differently as a piece of machinery. Okay, Luvo, finally figured it out. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Tulas.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Tulas, I have a major problem here. We have a major problem in Port Elizabeth. The power, the electricity. It's been 3 weeks now, Tulas. Nothing is coming right. It's going on and off, on and off. Last week since Thursday till now, no electricity. The places, the areas is summer strand and warmer. Can you please get the mayor of this city and explain what's happening? Because no explanation, nothing. No explanation, and we just need power. Food prices are going up. How much food we must throw out In my house, I must throw in so much meat. I don't know what to do about it because the fridge has not been functioning for more than 3 weeks. Can you please assist to us and
All
get
right.
the mayor and give us answers, please, man?
All right, Luvo, we'll pick up on that conversation. Thank you for that. And there was also a voice note earlier on expressing concerns also of a service delivery nature in Nelson Mandela Bay. Pramoro in Bloemfontein, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well. How are you? Please go ahead.
Thank you. I don't know what Nigerians want to do with South Africans and Ghanaians. This incident in the Eastern Cape happened last year in Ghana also. So I'm just surprised that most often, whenever we have to talk about xenophobic, it's just one of our sister countries that is implementing such a thing. It's total disrespect for a migrant like me to come from a different country with my culture to impose it or coronate it on a different country. Honestly, we need to have a fruitable, a brotherhood conversation. This needs to come to a total stop. Last year, when it occurred in Ghana, I was very ashamed of myself because people were even saying, Bramoro, Ghanaians are chasing Nigerians away from your own country. So how do you expect us to also embrace you, a Ghanaian in South Africa? And today, we are witnessing it in the Eastern Cape. I'll be very happy if the Nigerian High Commissioner can be on your show and at least explain if he is aware of the situation and what remedy are they trying to initiate to put a total stop to this. We should also factor that there is not all Nigerians. They have different tribes in Nigeria. One of the tribes is what is causing all these differences among us. You go to Ghana, it's the same thing that we witness. So we shouldn't label it on all Nigerians. But if possible, let's trim it onto the tribe that is causing that division among us. We cannot say South Africans are xenophobic when they are trying to save their culture. Ghanaians also have every right to do ours. Last year, no one classified as xenophobic. So if today South Africans are doing it, let's applaud them. But please, try get hold of the Nigerian High Commissioner for him.
Yeah, thank you for that, Pramoro. That makes sense. Just very briefly, how was it received in Ghana when they attempted to have a coronation of a king there?
In Ghana, people even went there. They wanted to burn down the place, etc. Even the police went there to rescue the Nigerian king. You understand? They went there to rescue him. But the only fortunate thing for him was he is illegal in the country. So you cannot deport him based on that. But maybe if a crime was committed, that is when maybe the country would take its laws against him. Even the chiefs were all against him, as well as the citizens. The president, like almost them, everyone was against. But when it comes out, it becomes difficult for us to take a public stand on such things because some of us preach for African unity. But that unity doesn't give me the right to coronate myself in a different country without respecting the laws.
Pramoro, thank you for that. That's Pramoro in Bloemfontein. Let's go to Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, mine rescue teams at Ikapa Minerals Mine in Kimberley in the Northern Cape have retrieved all 5 bodies of the mine workers who were trapped underground during a mud rush incident on the 17th of last month. The last 2 bodies were taken out in the early hours of this morning. Action SA is to lay charges against the Sports, Art and Culture Minister Gayton McKenzie, accusing him of threatening MP Dereline James. The row started when James questioned McKenzie's travel expenses and Kenny Kunene's links to alleged crime figure Katiso Mulife. And the South African Weather Service has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Gauteng, excluding the city of Tshwane today. Heavy downpours, localized flooding, hail and damaging winds are expected. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you're on your way to Pretoria, on your way down to Joburg, and you've left it until now, there's some fairly big traffic. A crash just past Buerta Avenue. Traffic's piling all the way back through to Rigel. Before you even get there, there's also a crash southbound at Linwood. So a delay coming through from the N4 down to Linwood Road, and then from sort of the R21 Rigel all the way down through to Buerta Avenue. It's a busy run out of Pretoria today. R21 is heavy on the brakes at the roadworks at Clayville. That's on your way to Pretoria. N3 out of Germiston. N12 from Alberton, still queued heavily up up into the restricted zone at Helder. See the change in the M12 and R24 routes in from Ekurhuleni towards Geluli is looking pretty heavy as well this morning. Durban side, the M4 crash at Clarewood that backed everything up this morning from Jacobs. That's all being cleared up. The M2 North stays heavy for this time of day, routing through Spaghetti Junction on your way to Umgena Road. Breakdown before Gateway is cleared. That backlog should be clearing pretty rapidly from now. And there is a breakdown on the N3 south around Market Road, just to watch out for. That could just kind of cause some problems leaving Pietermaritzburg. Cape Town, Somerset West through to Stellenbosch. Bit of a mission to get through today. A crash on the Broadway Boulevard into Bridge, and then some queues up in towards the Jamestown area. Burning vehicle on the Clipperville Road towards Stellenbosch, southbound at the N1 highway. If you're around the Eustonburg area, that stays busy. And a crash on the N2 inbound at Mowbray Main Road. That means the N2 inbound stays heavy from Bunga. Behind that, the M5 queuing from Kenilworth to get up and get into that N2 delay. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. Let's start with cricket. The T20 series may have been levelled, right, against New Zealand, but there are still concerns about fielding.
Right, Tulas. The captains are admitting the standards aren't just there in the fielding. The fielding letting them down. And you can't be winning games if you are gifting your opponents second chances. So that's the assessment from both the Proteas captain. They've admitted fielding needing urgent improvement despite mixed results against New Zealand. Now, the men, they levelled the T20 series at 2-2 with a 19-run win in Wellington, thanks to a half-century from Connor Esterhazen and 3 wickets from Gerald Coetzee. But the drop catches there, a big concern. And we also had the Proteas women paying the price for missed chances, going down by 6 wickets, with skipper Laura Walford calling for a reset ahead of the T20 World Cup. We've got soccer news now. Polokwane City coach Phuthi Mahafe insists defender Thabang Mathuludi has done enough to secure a place in the Bafana Bafana team for the FIFA World Cup. Although the right back missed City's 1-0 defeat to Amazulu in the Betway Premiership due to suspension, he remains a key figure, having been named in the squad to face Panama twice this month.
He's a humble boy, very, very much humble, and in talking sense into his mind, just to remind him that he's still a Polokwane City player, he's still contracted to us, and he has to first give the performances that made him to be selected from the national team by playing or giving the better performances in our team. So I think he's very honest, he's very humble, and with the performances that he's giving, he should continue to be there.
We go to more soccer, La Liga now. Real Madrid keeping the pressure on leaders Barcelona after a thrilling 3-2 win over Atletico Madrid. Vinicius Jr. starred with a brace, including the winner, as Madrid held on despite finishing with 10 men. Earlier, Barcelona had edged Rayo Vallecano 1-0 to stay 4 points clear at the top. Rugby, the Stormers moving up to second on the URC table after a 29-21 bonus point win over the Dragons in Cape Town. Sasha Feinberg Ngomezulu scored twice and added 14 points overall, but it was a far from polished performance, with the host wasting several scoring chances in what was deemed a messy performance. And finally, in golf, the inaugural Live Golf South Africa event drew record crowds, over 100,000 spectators at Steyn City, but was marred by incidents of fan violence. Videos circulating on social media show multiple fights breaking out amongst the spectators, with security slow to respond. Despite the success of the tournament on the course, the off-course scenes have raised concerns about crowd control at major events. That's your sport on the morning brief. Check back around 12:30. John Khedika will be teeing off. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Dowling, good morning to you. Let's start with news to do with, and I just went blank, monetary policy. No, I complicated a simple thing for myself. Monetary policy. Tell me about the expectations of economists.
Yes. So, a deteriorating global backdrop to us has all but closed the door on near term rate cuts, with big financial institutions expecting the South African Reserve Bank to keep interest rates unchanged at its upcoming MPC meeting this week. Earlier in the year, easing inflation helped by lower fuel prices had created room for potential cuts. I mean, the last inflation print we got last week, we saw inflation hitting right bam at the target at 3% for February, but of course that is backward looking. And now economists are wary of the impact the escalating conflict in the Middle East will have in terms of pushing oil prices, and that of course filtering through to the inflation expectations, and that of course filtering through to decisions the SARB could make moving forward. Now that poses a clear risk. Rising fuel costs are likely to filter through to transport and food prices, reversing recent disinflation trends and potentially pushing inflation above the bank's comfort range, at least temporarily. Now, given the uncertainty and the lag before these pressures fully reflect in the data, policymakers are likely to hold rates steady. Nedbank and Investec say the outlook now points to a prolonged pause, with the timing of any future cuts increasingly dependent on global developments.
Now, the next story in Dowling is loyalty programs are the bane of my existence. I dislike those things. Nkosi yami, and everywhere I go, people are asking, do you have a Clicks card? Do you have a Vitality card? Do you have a Sasol reward card? Do you have this Woolies card? Do you get what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Do you just want one card?
I don't want to be asked.
Everything?
Yes, it should be loaded onto my bank card. So that when I tap the bank card, it knows I'm shopping from this store, therefore will take whatever loyalty program you've got. And also, generally the rewards are, you'll need to spend you have to spend over 15 months just buying their loyalty for them to give you 5 rand back. Anyway, people other than me are driving the growth in loyalty programs.
I was about to say that many South Africans, including myself, don't think to believe that Tulas, and we are collecting all these reward cards like Thanos collecting Infinity Stones, okay? Now, the latest Truth and Brand Map survey shows that more and more South Africans are opting in for loyalty programs. In 2025-26, 85% of consumers participated in loyalty schemes, up from 82% the previous year. The survey drew insights from over 36,000 adults, representing more than 23 million South Africans, including 6,000 mass market consumers earning below 10,000 Rand per month. Now, rising household costs are a major driver, according to the survey. 44% of respondents cited food and energy prices as top concerns, up from 42% last year. Supermarkets, banks, and wellness programs remain most relied upon. Checkers' extra savings-led retail loyalty, FNB's eBucks topped financial services, and Discovery, Vitality, and Capitec were programs consumers said they could not live without. I'm one of those consumers, cannot live without my Checkers extra savings card.
Yeah, I also have that. I also have that one because I was told just have it. I can't explain why.
Listen, you know when you get to the till and there's a little discount, it counts.
I don't know.
Now, over the past decade, loyalty engagement has surged, with the average number of programs per consumer rising from 4.6 in 2015 to 10.4 in 2025, highlighting the growing role of loyalty rewards in everyday budgeting. That excludes, of course, Tulas.
Yeah, in fact, I should take advantage that we're talking about this. Please don't ask me for reward cards or points and numbers. Generally, as a matter of principle, if you work in retail, the fuel services, and you are listening to this show and you see me, please don't ask me. Please, I beg, don't ask me. I don't have it. I don't need it. It's all good. Let's go to a market update. What kind of a day are we looking at today?
So local markets likely to start the week in the red as the war in the Gulf region escalates and fuels risk-off sentiment. Emerging market currencies are caught up in that sell-off with the rand on the back foot this morning. It's at 17.21 to the dollar, 22.87 to the pound, and 19.84 to the euro. Looking at commodities, oil trending higher, up close to 2% at $108 per barrel. And then back to equities, the sell-off continues with stocks in Asia sinking deeper into the red. Over in the US, futures currently in negative territory.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for today. Let's talk again tomorrow. That's Ndauling Lechela, who's kept you updated on business, economics, and rewards cards.
For news on South African industry and mining, Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly has you covered. Click through to Creamer Media's Engineering News each day for the latest on the people and companies shaping the energy transition and South African industry. Keep your finger on the critical minerals pulse by visiting Creamer Media's Mining Weekly. For deeper insight, subscribe to the Engineering News and Mining Weekly magazine, out on Fridays. Creamer Media, current, credible, comprehensive.
This February, love the truth, no matter how unsettling it is. They were called accidents, a slip, a fall, a tragic mistake. But what if they weren't? Fatal fall, murder or accident investigates suspicious deaths from balconies, staircases and cliffs, where one question refuses to go away. Did someone push them? Through forensic science and haunting testimony, the truth is uncovered. Fatal fall, murder or accident. Tuesdays 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Without insurance, saving on your car insurance feels like being on the opposite side of the traffic jam. 63-year-old Almero saves a mind-blowing 417 Rand on his 2021 Ford Ranger. Get a quote now, and if OutSurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. OutSurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Call Tulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Just to round off on that issue around loyalty cards, I've just been reflecting. Maybe it says a lot about me and whether or not I'm loyal to any brand. And that goes for any cause. Yesterday I was making the point about the team I support, Chelsea, and saying, these people don't know me. I'm not that African me. I'm not going to vote for UNIP because they liberated us. I'm the guy who moves on to Movement for Multi-Party Democracy in Zambia and say, I'm done. Yes, you liberated us, but I'm done. I'm not really that loyal to a cause, which is why all of these things, Jay, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And therefore, these loyalty things, they just don't work for me. Let's go to your calls, and I want to start with Mandy out in Gqeberha. Mandy, good morning. You also want to weigh in on these issues that are playing themselves out in Gqeberha?
Yes. Good
what's
morning,
happening?
Butulas. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Yes, my brother, I'm good. Butulas, I'm calling with regards to the power issue in Gqeberha. We, in my region, which is Ward 3 of the municipality, we haven't had electricity now since Friday 4 o'clock. And it's been a consistent issue since January. The main issue is our pylons are rusting at our substations. And as a result, we are now having an issue where every other week, Port Elizabeth is a windy city.
Yes.
The most recent pause now is due to a gale force storm on Tuesday, Wednesday. And since then, they put us on what they call a load rotation schedule. However, there are specific areas that are not getting power at all. We are not getting clear communication. The last we've heard is that it'll take them 21 days. Mind you, Tulas, the areas affected are main business hubs in the area. So we are struggling, my brother. I don't know if you can get someone from the municipality just to come give us an idea what's going on, because it seems as though they are not prioritizing this issue.
Does it appear to be a municipal power supply issue, or is it more on the ESCOM side of things?
It's more on the municipal side, and it's more on them not maintaining the substations, because it was red flagged to them 2024 already that the pylons were rusting. There were certain pylons that were fixed temporarily but never corrected properly, and now we are sitting with this issue whereby every other week a pylon goes down.
Sure. Wow. So sorry you're going through all of that, Mandy, but thank you for flagging it. At least you've given us a bit more detail in terms of what exactly we'll be following up on. That's Mandy in Gqeberha. Let me go to Tando in the Eastern Cape as well. Good morning to you, Tando.
I'm a rugby and a tennis. Soccer, I don't know. I don't really follow.
Yes.
Since it's always on about Chelsea and Arab. Very interesting.
Well, it doesn't matter, Tando. Even if it was the Bulls or whoever, I'm just not loyal to a cause, blindly loyal. I'm loyal when it works. When it doesn't work, I'm out. Done. Bye-bye.
I thoroughly enjoy your banter with Saulen in the economic sector.
Thank you.
It's so interesting to listen to. You make it so interesting. But anyway, why I called, it's about the 26,000 people killed in a year. Did I get that right?
That is the figure, Tando. Unfortunately, that is the figure. That's what we're working with now. Yeah.
You know, because at the core of it is because of the lawlessness in our country. It's because there's no punitive measures. I mean, capital punishment must be made law. In other countries, you carry just a stack of cocaine or a little bit of you get jailed, and actually you get executed. I'm not saying that extreme measures should apply, but there are reasons of cases where there's no reasonable doubt that actually this person did. For instance, that guy who killed that child at the post office in Cape Town, and so many others. That there's no land. You don't have to think. I mean, to investigate even.
Yeah.
Okay, investigating is fine, but I mean, there's so many cases where people are just committing crime. They're killing people, and they are getting away with it. I mean. So
your sense is that capital punishment
this human rights nonsense, where actually when people it is lauded, and then but in our country is disintegrating. It's a failed state. We are living in a failed state.
Yeah, those are strong
all the hallmarks of a failed state are so glaringly visible. And I wonder sometimes, because you always say these people listen to your show. Those are supposed to be in power. Do they in any way share that? I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. Tando, thank you for that. Let's see what other people make of the proposals that Tando is putting on the table in as far as
capital punishment must be made law.
All right, Tando, thank you for that. That's Tando in the Eastern Cape. Let me take a traffic update, and I'll come back with one or two of your other calls, Lowered and Active Citizen, and then I'll play your WhatsApp voice notes as well.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still a heavy backlog coming out of Pretoria on your way to Joburg this morning. Big crash in N1 South at Buerta Avenue. Traffic piling all the way back through the R21 and back towards Rigel Avenue. It is thick and heavy across all lanes on that section of the N1 South this morning. A little bit of movement, but still fairly heavy. R21 looks like an additional lane closure went in over the weekend at Clayville on your way to Pretoria. Heavy backlogs passing 10B. Set slow going on the N1 South. It's a crash scene at Willie Mandela. So from Rivonia, it's all backed up. And if you're getting into Sandton today, it's a bit slow. Peter Place, Republic Road. down to Hurling, and that's all jamming up through there. The N3 North at Heldenace still busy as the traffic restrictions around the Heldenace interchange continue to bite. Durban's N2 North still sluggish getting up through Mount Edgecombe. It is starting to move, but there's just a bit of a slowdown after an earlier broken down vehicle in the roadworks at Gateway. It has been cleared a while, but that traffic's still busy recovering. Crash number 3 between Somerset West and Stellenbosch this morning. One at the N2 bridge is being cleared. One at Jamestown is cleared, but this one halfway between near Stainsross. So if you're leaving Stellenbosch, 44 on your way to, if you're leaving Somerset West on your way to Stellenbosch, that is still slow. Vehicle fire from earlier causing delays on the R304. That's the Clipperville Road approaching the N1 highway. And a crash on the N2 inbound at Mowbray Main having a big impact this morning. It's queuing up the N2 from Robert Sobukwe just after the airport. The N2 into Mowbray, very slow. Behind that, the M5 backed up from Kenilworth. And behind that N2 traffic, you got a big queue on Lisbic Parkway coming up from Rosebank Mowbray towards the N2, and behind that you've got Klipfontein Road across to Lisbic Parkway, pushing back a queue towards Sybrand Park and the Athlone area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Want to know how much money OutSurance saves 35-year-old Zanai on her car insurance?
A whopping 1,180 Rand.
That's an incredible 1,180 Rand monthly saving on Zanai's 2017 Mercedes-Benz GLA. And the out bonus she'll get?
It is close to 6,500 Rand in 3 years if I'm claim-free.
Nice. How much money could OutSurance save you? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online.
As you're getting to wherever you're going, all these trucks you're dodging, that's billions of rands in motion. Imagine that flow stopping because drivers must swap SIMs for better signal. That's an expensive pause that your business can't afford. Don't let bad tech choices get in the way. Switch to a reliable, stable network because nothing should stop your business. Call 084 1234. Cell C.
You could win a car. You could win a car. Everyone could win a car.
Spar Win a Car is back. Stand a chance to win one of 50 Hyundai Extras when you participating products like 400-gram Cool-Baked Beans and Tomato Sauce. Buy 2 for 30. Save 8 Rand. Or 700ml All Gold Tomato Sauce for 32.99. Save 10 Rand. Price is valid from 23 March till 7 April. Shop, swipe, and win while stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
Call to Lasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Let me go to a call from Active Citizen in Limpopo. Good morning to you.
Good morning to Lasizwe. I want to talk to the issue of the coronation of foreign nationals in South Africa. As much as I agree with the speakers, everyone that we have interviewed, but I think there is another area which we are not paying our attention to, which is the traditional leaders who are based in communities on daily basis to say, these people, they've neglected their responsibilities. And if you check, because I come from a rural place, a village from Rampatele, whereby the only time you hear anything from the traditional leader is it is only when he needs money. But as to how many foreign nationals we have in the community, it is none of his business. As to how many illegal foreigners are in his community, it is none of his business. So I think the traditional leaders must go back to the issue of taking their responsibilities very serious, to say they must have an audited report or report of the total number of foreign nationals residing in their areas. Number 2, to check whether these people are legal or illegal, and to verify their documentation, their names and everything. Because at the end of the day, they are also committing crimes, and they commit a crime from this village and run to another traditional leader somewhere and change the name that side. Because if you have Tula Sizwe, we know we've got Tula Sizwe ID number so and so and so. And if you commit a crime, we are able to trace you. But if you don't know, if I come to a community, I say I'm Tula Sizwe, and you don't verify that, it is tantamount to negligence of duty by traditional leaders.
Got you.
Active so they must take their responsibility.
They must also play their role in responding to these issues. Thank you for that. Active Citizen in Limpopo. Let me go to Ivan in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Ivan.
Good morning, Tulas. How are you?
Very well. Please go ahead.
Good morning. I'm phoning because I actually need help, and I hope the right people can hear me.
Sure.
I've got a son that's at Edgemead Primary School in Cape Town. My son got injured However, the school didn't contact us as parents to say that my son got injured. We escalated the matter to the Department of Education, up to the office of Mr. Allen and all of those people. However, the Education Department came back and they told us, number one, the school has got a policy in place that stipulates that the school will decide on the severity of an injury and whether they would contact the parents. So we've requested this policy. Now the answer is we must apply to see the policy. So my question is, if my child is at a school, why must I apply
That makes
to
no
see
sense.
a school policy?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. You should be seeing the policy without having to put in
That's right.
a complicated and long application.
That's right. Now, the second thing that the Education Department is saying, and this is Mrs. Wendy Horn, she is the district director. She says the second one is to be part of policy decisions as a parent, you must put in an application, which I also don't understand. Why do I have to apply to be part of a policy decision while the South African School Act says that all parents with children at the school, they're supposed to be part of the process. But now I must apply to become a stakeholder to be part of the process.
I've never heard of that, Ivan, to be honest. I could be wrong, but I've never heard of it. I've heard of democratic governance of a school, the active role for parents, therefore SGBs and the likes. And I would naturally expect that policies, whatever policies that govern the school, should be readily available for me as a parent in a school.
I fully agree with you, Tulas. We had an incident last year where the school was of the opinion that my son cannot go on an excursion unless he drives with the school-provided policy, with the school-provided transport, where we are of the opinion that we drive our kids wherever they go. They didn't want to allow him to go on this excursion because of this policy. That happened last year. Up until today, I still haven't seen that policy.
All right.
They're still of the opinion I need to apply.
Quickly, Ivan, I'm out of time. Which school is it?
Edgemead Primary School.
Edgemead Primary School. All right.
Edgemead.
Please hold on and let the team take your details, and let's see if there's anyone who will be responding to what has been raised this morning. But I've got to leave it there. Thank you for listening and thank you for your engagement today. Do stay with SAFM. Coming up is The Talking Point with Kathy Mohlahlana and the team. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. You've been briefed.
In our top stories, NUMSA relieved bodies of all 5 Ikapa mine workers retrieved and action essay to lay charges against Mackenzie. Good morning. The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA, says they relieved the bodies of all 5 mine workers who died last month in the Ikapa Minerals mine in Kimberley have been retrieved. The miners were trapped 890 meters underground after a mudslide on the 17th of last month. The last 2 bodies were brought to the surface this morning. The first body was found last Monday and the other 2 yesterday. Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, Gwede Mantashe, will be back at the Ikapa Minerals mine this morning for a 3rd time since the incident. NUMSA union official in Kimberley is Lerato Mohatlane.
Firstly, look, as NUMSA, we are relieved that the first part is now done. And then we wish these families strength during this period. And we believe that the struggle for the contestation of the liquidation process continues, where we will be back at court on the 17th of April 2026. Again, more than 1,200 families were buried alive by the mine, as their February salaries are still not paid.
Action essay is to lay charges against Sports, Art and Culture Minister Gayton Mackenzie, accusing him of threatening MP Dereline James. The row started when James questioned Mackenzie's travel expenses and Kenny Kunene's links to alleged crime figure Katiso Molefe. Mackenzie had accused James of spreading lies about him during a live stream on social media, but has since denied making threats. Michael Beaumont is Action SA National Chairperson.
It has been interpreted as a threat, not just by Action SA, by people who've been engaging in the online discussions around these things. We've got to understand the context. Nathan Mackenzie and his organisation have a background that really does bring into question when remarks like this are made. There have been allegations of their organisation being involved in criminal activity, and it's not taken lightly by people like Geraldine James, who have spent her entire life fighting against this kind of criminal element.
The KwaZulu-Natal Working Group on Child Sexual Violence will today meet with the Premier Tamin Tuli to present findings and recommendations aimed at strengthening the provincial response to child sexual violence and teenage pregnancy. KwaZulu-Natal is the first ever province to have a multi-sectoral group comprised of various stakeholders, such as the South African Human Rights Commission, the Commission for Gender Equality, the National Prosecuting Authority, and experts from the University of KwaZulu-Natal all coming together. The engagement follows the October 2025 launch of the Premier's multi-sectoral strategy to curb child and teenage pregnancies. It will highlight critical gaps in policy, reporting mechanisms and implementation frameworks. Commissioner at the South African Human Rights, Nomatlubi